Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. Here, we bring you fun, thrilling, and immersive novels in audio form. With a growing library of audiobooks, there's something here for every listener. Do you like Naruto fan fiction? We have it all. From powerful ninja battles to amazing sage arts and wood-style moves, or even Tsunoda's boobs, you can enjoy epic adventures anytime. Love One Piece stories? Soar through the skies with Moonwalk, sense the world with observation Haki, clash with enemies using armament Haki, spending the night with Nami and Robin and rise to fame by unleashing your conqueror's Haki. Become a true pirate of the seas. Your adventure starts here. Want even more? You can go full Bankai. Let's go. We offer a wide range of stories, including Fairy Tales, Hunter x Hunter, High School DxD, Marvel and DC, Harry Potter, and many more. So, what are you waiting for? Jump into endless adventures today. We're waiting for you at Novel Love Hearing. Stood up. Since we exchanged secrets, let's leave it at that. There's no need to dwell on it, Mrs. Sawamura. I'll take my leave now. With that, his figure vanished abruptly. Even though Sayuri had already been introduced to the concept of supernatural powers, she was still startled by the sudden disappearance. After a moment, she glanced down at her own figure. Her face involuntarily flushed once more. The outline she had felt earlier had been exaggerated, to say the least. If it were Petite, could she even handle it? At this thought, Sayuri silently scolded herself. What on earth am I thinking? What are you thinking about? In the service club, Yukino Shita finally couldn't hold back and addressed the source of the noise. Yui Uegahama, who had been restlessly shifting in her seat, was driving her to distraction. The constant rustling and movements made it impossible for Yukino to concentrate on her book. Though, to be fair, Yukino hadn't been able to calm her thoughts since the previous night. She was merely using Yui's behavior as a convenient excuse. Ugh. Yui, too, was struggling internally. She looked at Yukino with hesitant eyes before finally asking. Yukino-chan, did you see it yesterday? See what? Yukino replied, though the slight twitch of her eye betrayed her unease. You know, what Rao? Yui's face turned crimson as she fumbled to bring up the subject of the broadcast. Sensing where this was headed, Yukino attempted to cut her off before she could finish. She really didn't want to discuss such a risque topic. Luckily, she didn't have to interrupt herself. Something else intervened. Clang. The door to the service club was flung open with great force. Please. Help me. A sobbing boy burst into the room, tears streaming down his face. Yu and Yukino exchanged glances before standing up. Yu asked cautiously. Hey, did you come to the wrong place? I didn't. The boy replied anxiously. I heard this was a place where wishes can come true. Yukino closed her book, her tone cold as she clarified, this is not a place for granting wishes. We only take on requests that are within our capabilities. Yua tilted her head, intrigued. Do you need help with something? Yes. Then, go ahead and tell us. After a brief pause, the boy began explaining his situation. His name was Teishi Kawasaki, a student in the elementary division of the school. Recently, he had been troubled about his older sister, Saki Kawasaki, a senior in the high school division's class 3-5. According to him, his sister had been acting strange lately. She frequently left the house late at night and didn't return until the early morning hours. He didn't know what was going on but was deeply worried. Upon hearing that the service club could help, he decided to come. Yukino frowned as she listened to the details and honed in on one key point. Let me get this straight, your family is struggling financially, barely able to cover tuition and living expenses for you and your sister. Yet she recently paid for your tuition and often stays out all night. Is that correct? Yes, that's right. Teishi nodded vigorously. Yui hesitated, her expression turning uneasy as a troubling thought crossed her mind. She was reminded of something sinister, compensated dating. The description of Saki's behavior brought a strong sense of déjà vu tied to that concept. Before Yui could voice her thoughts, Yukino gave her a sharp look, stopping her mid-sentence. After a moment of contemplation, Yukino said, We'll take on your request. After Teishi left, Yui leaned in, her tone hushed and secretive. Yukino-chan. Do you think it could be, compensated dating? I don't know, Yukino replied with a shake of her head. Don't jump to conclusions without evidence. It could cause unnecessary misunderstandings. Oh. Got it. Realizing her mistake, Yua scratched her head in embarrassment. She hadn't meant to create a bad impression for Teishi. So, how should we handle this request? After a brief pause for thought, Yukino said. Since none of us know Saki Kawasaki well, let's start by trying to make contact with her. Returning home, Rao found that both Mai and Toru had gone to rest. He decided not to disturb them. Toru, after being battered by both Velzard and Velgrind, was likely nursing her bruised ego. Mai, on the other hand, was still recovering from yesterday's events and needed some quiet time to process everything. But Rao wasn't idle. He had plenty to do, including organizing the items in his possession. Apart from his freezing god sword, he now had a collection of Tigu from his time in the other world. Most of these didn't interest him. Aside from Estheeth's Demon God's extract, none of them were particularly noteworthy. What should I do with these? He held one of the weapons, weighing his options. Giving them to his allies felt unnecessary, they already had stronger powers from his blessings. Plus, Tigu were finicky, requiring compatibility with the user. Absorbing them for experience points didn't seem worthwhile either. As he debated how to deal with the seemingly useless items, the chat group chimed in with a notification. Ding. A new feature has been unlocked, Refinement, convert owned items into Awakening Stones. Awakening Stone, grants a random special ability upon use. Well, aren't you considerate? Rao smirked, amused by the timely arrival of the feature. Chapter 151, Awakening Stone, Saki Kawasaki Suspicious Activities. Opening the refinement feature, Rao saw that all his possessions could be refined. After some consideration, he decided to keep the God Freezing Sword and Demon God's Extract, while refining all the other Tigas. Ding. Refinement complete. You have obtained Awakening Stone times 2, only 2? Rao frowned slightly. The number was pitifully small. He had refined nearly 40 Tigas, yet he only received 2 measly Awakening Stones. I better see what makes these so special. He retrieved the Awakening Stones from the chat group's inventory. In his palm lay 2 stones, glowing with a mesmerizing rainbow hue. Awakening Stone, each life form can only use this once. Upon use, it grants powerful new abilities. Powerful, huh? The description sounded grandiose, though the limitation of a one-time use per person was unusual. He picked up one stone, holding it firmly in his hand. In an instant, the rainbow light burst forth, enveloping him before quickly merging into his body. Boom. Scarlet flames erupted from Rao's body without warning. Ding. You have obtained the ability True Crimson Flame. Ding. Detected fusion potential with Crimson Lotus Dragon God. Abilities are merging. Ding. You have obtained the ability True Crimson Dragon God. True Crimson Dragon God, you are the master of the source of all flames. Before Rao could fully process the newfound power, the chat group lit up with activity. Stella, Rao. Stella, what's going on? I suddenly felt a surge of immense power in my body. The contract is burning hot. Did you do something? Rao, describe the changes. Stella, my ability has changed. It says True Crimson Dragon God possession. I don't really understand it. Rao, that's related to me. Friren, what's happening? Does this have something to do with the chat group's new feature? Rao, spot on. Rao, refining items with the new Awakening Stones allows for new powers to awaken. My ability happened to fuse with one, causing some changes. Stella, so? I got stronger? Rao, what does it matter to you? That power is tied to me. Stella, hey, it's still my signature move, okay? Rao, fine. Have it your way. Friren, wait, can I refine my staff for this? Akam, I have Tigu. Can I try refining it? Rao, don't do it lightly. Let me put it this way, I refined nearly 40 Tigas and only got 2 Awakening Stones. Akam, that's... Friren, in that case, I'll pass. Stella, enough about that. Don't forget. My school tournament is tomorrow. Make sure you show up. Rao, I remember. Smiling wryly at Stella's reminder, Rao closed the chat group and headed to the bedroom. Inside, Mai lay on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. She was still wrestling with the moral dilemmas of taking lives. Approaching her side, Rao handed her the second Awakening Stone. Mai, use this. This is an Awakening Stone? Mai's eyes locked onto the rainbow-colored stone. She had seen the conversation in the chat group and immediately recognized it. Sitting upright, she refused outright. No, I can't. This is far too valuable. She had read that it took 40 Tigas to produce just 2 Awakening Stones. This kind of thing only works once per person, Rao explained, his voice calm. I've already used one, so this is useless to me now. Gently caressing her cheek, he added softly. And besides, compared to this, you and everyone else are what's truly precious to me. Rao. Mai was deeply moved, feeling her guilt and hesitation slowly melt away. Still, she muttered in mild protest. You didn't need to mention everyone else. If you'd just said it was for me, I'd be happier. Rao's lips curled into a mischievous grin. Now that wouldn't be honest of me, would it? You could at least leave out how much of a flirt you are. My sighed, taking the awakening stone from his hand. She looked at him with determination. Rao, promise me. If you ever need me in the future, you'll tell me right away. Of course, Rao said with a chuckle. His feelings were never purely altruistic, he always sought something in return. For example. Gotcha. He suddenly grabbed my ankles with a wicked grin. Rao? What are you? I need you right now, he said, his tone teasing. And I think doing this will help you absorb the awakening stone faster. Let's get started, shall we? No way. It's still daytime. Evening. Yukinon, are you sure we should be following Saki Kawasaki? Yue, having changed into casual clothes, looked nervous. Earlier that afternoon, she had approached Saki Kawasaki to try and gather information. However, Saki was cold and barely acknowledged her, leaving Yue unable to get any answers. Thus, Yukino had proposed following her instead. Not long ago, Teishi Kawasaki had sent them a message saying his sister had left home after dinner. Now, the two girls were stationed in their designated spot, ready to trail her. Yue still felt uneasy. Isn't following someone kind of wrong? Yukino remained serious. You know there's a possibility she's involved in questionable activities, right? If that's the case, would you just stand by and do nothing? I wouldn't. Yue, with her kind heart, couldn't deny it. Then let's find out what she's really up to. She's here. At that moment, Saki Kawasaki appeared. The two quietly trailed her. Their pursuit ended in front of a neon-lit bar. She went inside. Yue gasped. In her mind, bars weren't places for good people. Yukinon, what should we do now? She looked at Yukino, fear evident in her eyes. Yukino also frowned. Bars weren't safe places, and she couldn't risk taking someone as naive as you inside. After a moment of thought, Yukino suggested. Let's get her phone number from her brother and call her out. We can talk to her outside. Good idea. Yue eagerly agreed. A short while later, Saki Kawasaki emerged from the bar, wearing a bartender's uniform and frowning. She quickly spotted Yukino and Yue standing nearby and immediately recognized Yue from earlier that day. You're the ones who called me out? That's right, Yukino said calmly, studying her attire. Are you working here as a waitress? Saki Kawasaki raised an eyebrow, clearly displeased about being caught by her schoolmates. After a brief hesitation, she replied. I'm a bartender. So, why did you call me out here? It's not us, Yukino corrected. It's your brother, Teishi Kawasaki, who asked us to find you. Teishi? Saki Kawasaki seemed surprised. Yue spoke hesitantly. Your brother noticed you've been staying out all night and was really worried something bad might happen to you. Saki Kawasaki sighed and rubbed her temples, piecing things together. I have my reasons for doing this. Yukino didn't push further. She understood that every family had its struggles, and Saki's was no exception. Even so, she advised. I understand your family might be in a tough spot, but I think it's important for you to explain things to your brother. And maybe consider finding a safer part-time job. Finding a new job? The thought hadn't crossed her mind. Bartending brought in quick cash, which helped support her family. But perhaps she did owe her brother an explanation. All right. I'll take some time off and go home to talk to Teishi. That's great. Hearing this, Yue smiled brightly. Saki went back inside to request time off, while Yukino contacted Teishi to let him know his sister would be home soon. That should wrap up this request, Yukino said. Yeah, I think so, Yue replied. However, Yukino cast a glance at Saki's retreating figure. She doubted Saki would quit her job at the bar, but that wasn't something they could decide for her. They had already done their part. Both girls then returned home. But things rarely go as smoothly as expected. Not long after Yukino had returned home and finished preparing dinner, her phone rang. Answering it, she heard Teishi's frantic voice. My sister hasn't come home yet. I tried calling her, but her phone isn't working. Senpai, do you know what's going on? Yukino froze. The bar wasn't far from their home. Saki should have arrived by now. Don't worry. I'll try to contact her. After hanging up, Yukino called Saki's phone. Beep. Beep. The only sound was the dial tone. The call wouldn't connect. What's going on? Frowning, she stood up, grabbing her coat and shoes. She glanced at Mabel, who was staring hungrily at the table of food. You eat without me, Yukino said before heading out the door. Chapter 152, Saki Kawasaki is missing? Rao's radar kick in. Not long after. At the entrance of the bar, a hurriedly running Yu encountered an equally brisk Yukino. Yukinon, did you hear too? Saki Kawasaki. She hasn't come home yet. Yes, and her phone isn't connecting either. Let's go inside and check. This time, both of them entered the bar, fully wrapped up in an attempt to avoid attention. They quickly found the bar counter, but the bartender there wasn't Saki Kawasaki. It was another woman. Exchanging glances, the two approached to inquire. "Excuse me, where's the bartender who was here earlier?" The bartender, initially assuming they were customers, looked surprised upon realizing they were looking for someone. "You mean Saki? She left about an hour ago, said she had an urgent family matter to deal with and asked for the night off." Yu and Yukino exchanged worried glances. It was becoming clear that something had happened to Saki Kawasaki. Thanking the bartender, they quickly exited the bar. "Do you think Saki Kawasaki has gone missing?" Yu asked, her voice filled with anxiety. "I don't know yet." Yukino sighed. "People don't just disappear without reason. For now, the best we can do is have her brother report her missing to the police." She pulled out her phone to inform Daishi. "Wait." Yua suddenly reached out to stop her. Yukino looked at her, puzzled. Yua, now looking unusually serious, said, "Yukino, do people really just vanish into thin air? This world. It's not exactly a normal one anymore, is it?" Yukino froze. Yua's words brought her to a realization. This wasn't just an ordinary world anymore. There was the hidden underworld. The inner world. With demons, magical creatures, and more. It wasn't impossible for someone to vanish without a trace due to such forces. "You're suggesting this might be connected to the inner world?" I'm just guessing," Yua said hesitantly, scratching her head. "But it wouldn't be too much of a coincidence, would it?" The two fell into uneasy silence. It couldn't be, right? Later, in the bedroom. "Feeling better now?" Reclining on the bed, Rao hugged the visibly exhausted Mai close. Mai's expression softened, her heart feeling at peace. She had finally released the emotional burden she'd been carrying. Having come to terms with her feelings, Mai had resolved to stand beside Rao, no matter what. In her own way, she had reached a similar conclusion to Siko and the others. Seeing that Mai had recovered both mentally and emotionally, Rao felt relieved. This shift in her mindset would help her grow stronger. The awakening stone she had used had also granted her a remarkable ability. Name, Mai Sakurajima. Level, 20. Abilities, Dragon Force. Moonlight Throne. Cognitive Disappearance, Rao's Blessing. Inherent device, Void Star Moonlight Throne, harnesses the power of moonlight and gravity. Not bad. Mai turned around, resting her head against his chest, and whispered. "Rao, do you think Yukino and the others might be in trouble?" "Oh?" Rao raised an eyebrow, a teasing smirk forming. "Are you suggesting I go and enlighten them now too?" Blushing furiously, Mai lightly bit his chest. "I didn't mean that, you perv." She scolded. "If you're so concerned, go talk to them yourself. But don't bring them here for this." Having to share him with Toru had already pushed her limits. The thought of a larger party was still far too embarrassing for her. Rao chuckled. He had only been joking, testing the waters to see how far Mai's tolerance could go. It seemed there was still some distance to cover before any grand gatherings could happen. Just then, he noticed a message from Yukino in the group chat. Yukino Shida, Rao, I've encountered something strange." "Rao, what's going on?" Yukino Shida, a classmate has gone missing." "Siko Bujujima, a disappearance? Shouldn't this be reported to the police?" Rao, agreed. Yukino Shida. Yukino Shida, I'm worried that Saki Kawasaki's disappearance might be related to the inner world. It was too sudden. Rao froze for a moment. That name sounded familiar. If he recalled correctly, Saki Kawasaki was another beautiful girl. His special radar kicked in. "Rao, location? Elsewhere." Yua looked worried. "Yukainon, do you think we're bothering Rao if this has nothing to do with the inner world?" "If it's not related, we'll apologize properly," Yukino replied calmly. "Besides, it's best if this doesn't involve the inner world at all." She sincerely hoped Saki Kawasaki hadn't encountered anything from the inner world. Not only would it be dangerous, but explaining it would undoubtedly be troublesome. "Unfortunately, your friend is indeed involved." "Ah." The sudden voice behind him made Yua jump in fright. "Am I really that scary?" Rao asked with a faint smile. "Ah, no, it's not that. Rao-kun just startled me by speaking so suddenly behind me." Yua replied, blushing and nervously rubbing the back of her head. She realized she might have overreacted. Meanwhile, Yukino wore a serious expression. "Rao-kun, are you saying Saki Kawasaki's disappearance is truly connected to the inner world?" "That's correct." Rao raised his hand, revealing a strand of black, mist-like energy floating in the air. This magical aura belongs to a demon." Rao had sensed the demon's presence the moment he arrived. He began walking in the direction where the demonic energy extended. Yukino and Yu exchanged a glance before silently following behind him. In a dimly lit underground basement, Saki Kawasaki slowly regained consciousness. Her neck ached, and her head felt fuzzy. But as her awareness returned, she realized her dire situation. Her limbs were shackled in iron chains, bound spread eagle on a wooden plank bed. Above her, a dim, flickering lamp barely illuminated the dark basement. Where am I? The last thing Saki remembered was taking leave from the bar to head home. Everything after that was a blank. Her current predicament made her think she'd been kidnapped. She tried to struggle against the chains, but the only result was the sound of clinking metal. It was futile. Clang, clang. Her heart began racing, and her breaths grew shallow. She had no idea how she ended up here or who had done this to her. Fear crept into her mind, tightening its grip on her. Tap, tap, tap. Suddenly, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the basement. The footsteps grew louder and closer. Her heartbeat quickened with them. She didn't know who was coming or what they intended to do. She could only silently pray for safety. Tap, tap, tap. The sharp clack of high heels stopped. Stop struggling, Saki. You're my first prey in this world, my first meal. I have to savor this moment. A woman in a striking red dress, her figure swaying seductively, stepped out of the shadows. It's you. Saki's eyes widened in shock. She recognized this woman. She had been frequenting the bar lately, and they had even exchanged friendly conversations. Oh my, Saki, you remember me. The woman's eyes curved into crescents as she smirked. She bent down and lightly traced Saki's cheek with her finger. I've had my eye on you for a while now, looking for the perfect prey. As she spoke, Saki noticed a drop of saliva falling from the corner of the woman's red lips. A chill ran through her. Why are you doing this? What do you want from me? What do I want? The woman's eyes suddenly glowed red. Hey 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 hey. A sharp, eerie laugh erupted from her mouth, a sound that was anything but human. In the next moment, the woman leaned closer to Saki. What I want is to eat you, of course. To Saki's horror, the woman's human form began to contort and twist, transforming into a grotesque creature with pale, leathery, and emaciated skin stretched taut over its skeletal frame. The realization hit her like a brick wall. Saki's mind went blank. She stared in terror as the creature's gaping maw, lined with jagged, inhuman teeth, lunged toward her head. Is this a nightmare? Even as fear paralyzed her, a small part of her clung to the hope that this was all a dream. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. Fear coursed through her veins, her thoughts racing. What will happen to Mom and my brother if I die? She thought of everything in an instant. But something was off. The instant felt unnaturally long. She quickly noticed that the monster wasn't moving. And then came the light. The dark basement was suddenly flooded with bright, blinding light. Saki instinctively squeezed her eyes shut. When she reopened them, 3 figures, 2 girls and 1 boy, stood before her. Her eyes locked on the 2 girls she recognized immediately, Yukino and Yu. It's you. Kawasaki-san, are you okay? Yu asked nervously. She tried to step closer but hesitated when she saw the monstrous figure. Why yeah, I'm fine. Saki's heart still pounded in her chest as her eyes darted to the monster mere inches from her face. Now, under the light, the creature's horrific appearance was clearer than ever. Its pale, rough skin stretched taut over a bony frame. Its arms were replaced with bat-like wings, tipped with razor-sharp claws. It looked like something from a nightmare. Chapter 153, A Succubus from Mente Isla, Demon, Banshee Demon, Level 13, Ability, Illusory Soundwave. The term Banshee seemed fitting to Rao, evoking imagery straight out of Western fantasy stories. He walked straight past the motionless creature, not even sparing it a glance. With a casual wave of his hand, the chains binding Saki Kawasaki snapped. Can you stand on your own? Saki Kawasaki couldn't grasp what was happening. Suppressing her fear, she stammered. Why yes, I think so. She tried to stand, but her trembling legs betrayed her bravado. She stumbled, nearly falling, before Rao caught her just in time. Thank you. Her gratitude was sincere. Normally proud and independent, Saki disliked relying on others. But faced with the incomprehensible, she had no choice but to accept the help. Rao guided her to Yukino and Yu. Take her outside. I'll handle this. Understood. Knowing they couldn't offer much assistance, the 2 girls supported Saki Kawasaki and helped her leave the basement. Rao then summoned Raphael and Vignette. Another otherworldly intruder? Raphael said casually, as if used to such situations. Yes, a demon. It's likely from the same world as the last one. Rao turned to Vignette. Has your demon realm identified the world they're coming from? Vignette sighed, shaking her head. Sorry, not yet. All we know is there might be a passage connecting this world to theirs, but we haven't pinpointed its location. In that case, let's ask her. She's already learned to speak human languages. With that, Rao released the temporal interference magic suppressing the Banshee demon. Ah! The demon let out an ear-piercing scream, its distorted voice grating on the ears. Rao frowned in irritation. Without hesitation, he kicked her. Boom! The sheer force sent the Banshee demon flying, slamming her hard into the wall. Rao, maybe tone it down a bit, Raphael interjected, though not out of pity. If you kill her, we'll lose a potential source of information. Relax, Rao said coolly. I know what I'm doing. She's not going to die. The demon coughed violently, her body racked with pain but still very much alive. Rao made a gripping motion with one hand. The Banshee demon, still lying in the rubble, was swept into his grasp by a gust of wind, his hand clamping tightly around her neck. Don't struggle. Stay obedient, or I'll make you wish you were dead. The cold words sent shivers down the demon's spine. Her instincts screamed that this man's strength alone could crush her. She froze, completely still. And my lord, ask whatever you want. I'll tell you everything. Just please, don't kill me. Are you from the Holy Cross continent, Ente Isla? Yes, my lord. The Banshee demon, trying to appear compliant, introduced herself. I am a soldier in the Demon King's Banshee Demon Corps. I thought I died on the battlefield, but when I woke up, I found myself in this world without any magic power. She actually learned the human language of this world. Vignette was surprised. After all, the werewolf demon they previously encountered couldn't communicate at all. I've been here for a while and deliberately studied the human language, the Banshee demon explained. How long have you been here? Raphael asked curiously. By human reckoning, almost 2 months. 2 months, and you've already mastered the human language, secured an identity, and a place to stay? Not bad, Rao remarked, raising an eyebrow. He recalled how poorly the Demon King had fared in the original story. Well, my lord, I'm a fast learner. As for money and identity, I obtained them through, what humans call compensated dating. See compensated dating? Raphael and Vignette thought they had misheard. There were so many things to question here. Why a demon would resort to such methods to earn money, and, most importantly, who on earth would be willing to sleep with this creature in its demon form? Vignette felt she might need to wash her eyes just thinking about it. Thankfully, Rao released his grip, and the Banshee demon reverted to her seductive human guise. Seeing her now, Raphael and Vignette finally understood. Though her looks were average, her flamboyant demeanor made the idea of compensated dating plausible. But Vignette was more concerned about another matter. How many people have you eaten in these 2 months? Her tone was cold, suspecting the worst. After all, the demon had almost devoured Saki Kawasaki earlier. The Banshee demon's expression changed drastically. And no, my lady. You misunderstand. I haven't eaten anyone. I was just trying to collect fear to convert it into magic energy. She explained hurriedly, her voice tinged with desperation. I accidentally discovered that fear could be converted into magic power. Once I collected enough energy, I would erase their memories and let them go. Please, you must believe me. The demon's trembling voice and panicked demeanor made it clear how afraid she was for her life. Rao released her and nodded. She's not lying. Her emotional response is genuine. And my lord, thank you. The Banshee demon looked at him with gratitude, relieved that her explanation had been accepted. Don't give me that look. Rao frowned. It's annoying. Why yes, of course. The demon quickly corrected herself, not daring to offend further. Turning to Vignette, Rao asked. You've got all the information you need. Should we send her back to the demon realm? Vignette pondered for a moment before nodding. If she hasn't lied, and she hasn't harmed anyone, there's no need to eliminate her. Plus, since she knows both languages, she might be able to extract more information from the werewolf demon. The Banshee demon's eyes lit up when she realized her life would be spared. Yes, yes. I'll be very useful. She volunteered eagerly. Fine. Take her away, Rao said indifferently. While her methods were questionable, she hadn't caused any real harm. It wasn't worth dealing with her further. Better to let the demon realm investigate her world. Thank you, Vignette said, stepping forward. She waved her hand, activating a teleportation spell. In a flash, she and the Banshee demon vanished from the basement. Chapter 154, in Joko's eye Vignette had left with the demon. Raphael, there's nothing else to do here. You can head back as well, Rao said, his tone sounding more like he was dismissing an errand runner. To be fair, the scene didn't require much cleanup. There were no bodies or bloodstains, making this a relatively minor incident. But Raphael didn't leave. Instead, her gaze lingered on Rao, her expression hesitant. Rao noticed her reluctance. "You seem like you have something to say," he prompted. "Yes," Raphael finally admitted. "What do you think of Gab, from an opposite-sex perspective?" She still hadn't gotten over the scene she witnessed the other day. Initially, she wanted to ask directly if the two were dating, but in the end, she chose a more roundabout approach. Rao, guessing the motive behind her question, smirked. "I think Gabriel is very cute." That wasn't the answer Raphael wanted. But Rao wasn't done. "From an opposite-sex perspective, though, Gabriel isn't as mature or gentle as you. Compared to you, she also has a more youthful figure." "Eh?" Raphael was stunned. Weren't they supposed to be discussing Gabriel? How had the topic shifted to her? Even someone as composed as Raphael couldn't help but feel flustered at the unexpected compliment. And also, seeing Rao about to continue, Raphael quickly raised a hand to stop him. "Sorry, Rao-kun. I just remembered something urgent. I need to leave." With a flash of holy light, Raphael disappeared. Rao chuckled. Her small schemes were all too transparent to him. Unfortunately for her, she'd encountered someone determined to claim all four little angels. Just one Gabriel wouldn't suffice. When Rao emerged from the basement, Saki Kawasaki was seated on a chair, looking much calmer after being reassured by Yukino and Yue. Seeing him appear, Yukino finally relaxed and asked, "Rao-kun, is everything resolved?" "Yeah, it was a minor issue." Saki Kawasaki stood and bowed deeply before him. "Thank you for saving me." "I'll accept your thanks," Rao said nonchalantly. "But you should be thanking Yukino and Yue more. Without them contacting me, I wouldn't have known about your situation." "Hee, it was just a coincidence that we got involved because of the request," Yue said with a laugh. "I'm just glad you're okay, Kawasaki-san. Thank you both so much." Saki Kawasaki sincerely expressed her gratitude to the two girls. Rao then added, "However, there's something you should know." "What is it?" All three women looked at him curiously. Yukino furrowed her brows and asked, "But didn't we see her about to eat Saki Kawasaki when we arrived?" Rao laughed. "That's the funny part." Remembering the earlier scene, he couldn't help but chuckle. Her goal wasn't to kill Saki Kawasaki. She was trying to scare her, feed on her fear, and then erase her memory of the incident. "So, she wasn't trying to kill me?" Saki Kawasaki said, confused. "Correct. She needed the emotion of fear to convert it into her power." "Is that really a thing?" Yu exclaimed in surprise. Yukino was equally taken aback. Saki Kawasaki, still bewildered, asked, "But what exactly is she?" "I'm a banshee demon," of course an unexpected voice answered. Saki Kawasaki turned around and saw the familiar figure. Startled, she instinctively backed into Rao. Vignette offered an apologetic smile. "Sorry," she said she wanted to apologize, so. Apparently, the banshee demon had insisted on coming back one more time. The demon bowed deeply toward the frightened Saki Kawasaki. "I'm really sorry for what I did earlier," she added sincerely. "Actually, Saki, you were one of the first humans in this world to talk to me kindly. I've even heard you talk about your struggles. Before I leave, I feel I must share the method I used to earn over 300,000 yen in just 2 months. 300,000 in 2 months? Yu and Yukino were intrigued by her claim. Rao, however, could only feel his eyelid twitching. Considering what the demon had said earlier, he had a bad feeling. The banshee demon proudly declared, "It's all thanks to Injoko's eye. If you do it a few times a day, you can make tons of money from human men." The air froze. Everyone stared at her in disbelief. Injoko's eye. That was already absurd enough. But several times a day? We're leaving. With her cheeks flushing red, Vignette couldn't bear to stay any longer. She quickly dragged the banshee demon away. The atmosphere turned awkward. Saki Kawasaki, still clutching Rao's arm, seemed deep in thought. It looked like she was seriously considering the idea of Injoko's eye. Yue forced a smile and quickly tried to reassure her. "She's obviously lying, Kawasaki-san. Don't take her seriously." Yukino spoke with a firm tone. "Injoko's eye is not a proper way to make money. I hope you won't go down that path." Saki Kawasaki broke out in a cold sweat, waving her hands. "Of course I wouldn't do that. I was just trying to make sense of what's happening." She glanced awkwardly at Rao. "Could you at least explain what's going on before I lose my mind?" "Sure. But first, can you let go of my arm?" Rao subtly gestured toward his arm, which was firmly pressed into her ample chest. Realizing her inappropriate behavior, Saki Kawasaki immediately released him, her face turning bright red. I'm so sorry," she stammered, completely mortified. Yue found the change in Saki Kawasaki's demeanor strange. Earlier, when they'd met, she'd been cold and indifferent. Now, she was acting like an entirely different person. Knowing that Saki Kawasaki wasn't in the right frame of mind to process everything at once, Rao kept things simple. He told her that the world wasn't as ordinary as it seemed, then suggested she go home to rest. "If you're curious about more details, feel free to find me when you're ready," he said. After escorting a dazed Saki Kawasaki back to her house, Rao turned to Yukino and Yue. "This wraps up this incident for now. Do you want me to take you both home?" He then added casually. "Oh, by the way, Yukino lives next door to me, so I can take you both together." Yukino had been planning to refuse his offer, but after hearing that last sentence, she found herself unable to. Even Yue seemed envious upon hearing it. With a slightly awkward smile, she said, "Then please take Yukino home first. I can take a taxi." Rao waved her off. "What are you talking about? It only takes a moment with teleportation magic. Give me your hand." "Ugh. Fine." Blushing, Yue placed her hand in his. She had completely forgotten about how he'd sent her home before. Rao also extended his hand toward Yukino, motioning for her to take it. After a brief moment of hesitation, Yukino and Yue exchanged glances before simultaneously taking his hands. In an instant, all three vanished from the spot. Chapter 155, Disciplining Mabel, Spank. We've arrived. Using teleportation magic, Rao appeared at the entrance to Yukino's apartment. Yukino still wasn't quite used to the dizziness that came with teleportation. Instinctively, she held Rao's hand tightly. After a few seconds of steady breathing, she confirmed the sensation had faded and released her grip. "Thanks." As she expressed her gratitude, she pulled out her keys to unlock the door. At that moment, Rao casually asked, "The other day, I saw you in the chat group sounding exasperated about Mabel. Her laziness must be pretty outrageous, huh?" Yukino froze mid-motion. Thinking back on Mabel's antics over the past few days, she sighed deeply, her frustration evident. "I really should have listened to you back then." She managed a bitter smile. "But I made the choice, so it's my responsibility to host her until she leaves." Her pride wouldn't let her back out of a commitment she had made, even though Mabel had significantly drained her confidence. Yukino had learned the hard way that not every burden was hers to bear. Hearing the faint melancholy in her tone, Rao offered a light-hearted reassurance. "Don't be so hard on yourself. It's not your fault. Mabel was spoiled in the Ice Clan. She's used to everything being handed to her." He continued. "That's a bad habit, and you don't need to accommodate her." If it were up to him, he wouldn't hesitate to use a firm hand to straighten out Mabel's antics. After all, her neglectful upbringing wasn't his problem, but he wouldn't mind stepping in to teach her some discipline. As Yukino finally opened the door to her apartment, she felt a small boost in confidence after Rao's words of encouragement. She turned to bid him goodbye, but noticed his gaze had grown strange. Following his line of sight, she turned her head and fell into a stunned silence. Standing right in the middle of the apartment was Mabel, completely naked, holding a popsicle. For a moment, time seemed to freeze as the three of them stared at each other in a tense tableau. Crack! The popsicle fell from Mabel's hand and hit the floor. "Ah!" Mabel screamed, but instead of covering herself, she somehow pulled out the god-freezing sword made of ice. "Pervert! Die!" With a slash, an icy frost erupted toward the two at the door. Yukino's eyes widened in terror. The biting cold of the attack made her feel as though her body had been plunged into an arctic hell, paralyzed by fear. She was going to die. "TCH. I told you she'd be trouble. Looks like I'll have to help you discipline her properly, Yukino." Before she could react, Rao stepped in front of her. With a simple gesture, he gripped the frosty attack in his hand. Crack! The frost stopped spreading and shattered into harmless shards. Well, before Mabel could comprehend what had happened, Rao was already in front of her. With a swift move, he disarmed her, sending the god-freezing sword clattering to the ground. He then scooped her up in his arms. "Seems like my warnings fell on deaf ears. You dare use your powers so recklessly in an apartment?" Rao sneered. "Yukino might tolerate you, but I won't." He had no patience for her irresponsibility. If he hadn't been there, Yukino could have been seriously hurt. Or worse. Hey. Let me go. Mabel squirmed wildly in his grasp, her bare skin pressing against him. Her cheeks turned crimson from embarrassment and frustration, but Rao didn't let go. Instead, he carried her to the sofa, sat down, and placed her face down over his lap. "Ah! Stop it. Let me go." Mabel flailed her limbs, but Rao pinned her down with ease. With an unamused expression, he raised his hand high. Smack! A crisp sound echoed through the room. "Ah!" Mabel froze, gasping in shock as a stinging pain radiated from her butt. Before she could protest further, Rael's hand came down again. Smack. Ah! It hurts. It hurts. Mabel yelped in pain, tears welling up in her eyes as her struggles grew weaker. Behind them, Yukino stood frozen in place, unsure whether to intervene or look away. No one had ever disciplined her like this. As a member of the Ice Clan, Mabel had never been scolded, hurt, or physically punished. Yet here she was, tears pooling in the corners of her eyes after just 2 strikes. Unfortunately for her, Rael remained indifferent to her cries. His expression was stoic, his hand merciless as it continued to land firm smacks. He was determined to teach her a lesson. Smack. 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 The sound of strikes mixed with Mabel's sobs echoed through the room, snapping Yukino out of her daze. Ha! She gasped for air, realizing she had forgotten to breathe. Drip. Cold sweat dripped from her forehead as she clutched her chest, struggling to calm her racing heart. Every beat pounded loudly in her ears, a visceral reminder of how close she'd come to death. The earlier terror had been paralyzing, far more harrowing than any bloodshed she'd seen on live streams. Yukino's breath was shallow and rapid as the lingering fear coursed through her. From the living room came Mabel's cries. Stop hitting me. It hurts so much. Do you understand your mistake now? Rael's cold voice rang out. Yes, I was wrong. Please stop, it hurts so much. Not yet. You need to remember this lesson. Smack. 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 Mabel's wails intensified, filled with anguish and regret. Yukino, her curiosity piqued, hesitated before walking into the living room. Her eyes widened in shock. Rael sat on the sofa, spanking Mabel like a parent disciplining a misbehaving child. Her reddened butt was unmistakable, proof of his unwavering discipline. Yukino. Help me. Please. Mabel reached out toward Yukino, tears streaming down her face. But Rael gave Yukino a reassuring look. Go take a shower. You're drenched in sweat. I'll take care of her. You're still asking for help? Seems you haven't learned your lesson. With that, Rael raised his hand and struck again. Ah! Mabel screamed even louder. I won't do it again. I really won't. Her voice was hoarse from crying. It was the kind of pitiful wail that could make anyone's heart ache. Yukino observed the scene, her lips pressed into a thin line. She knew Rael had saved her life earlier and that he was genuinely trying to discipline Mabel now. Though the sight was hard to witness, she chose not to interfere. Instead, she turned and quietly entered the bathroom. As the sound of the shower echoed from behind the door, Mabel realized no one would save her now. Wah! Stop it. Please. But her cries were drowned out by the sound of smacks landing in quick succession. Meanwhile, elsewhere. Raffi, why is your face so red? Gabrielle yawned as she stepped out of her room, on her way to grab a drink of water. Raphael froze, caught off guard. She quickly waved her hand, feigning nonchalance. I just got back from helping Rael deal with a demon. It took some effort. Rael. Hearing the name, Gabrielle's eyes flickered. Her mind involuntarily replayed the memory of being kissed by him multiple times. Her face flushed crimson, matching Raphael's. Oh. Gabrielle's tone was indifferent, but she quickly turned toward the fridge. She opened it with purpose, muttering under her breath. I'm not borrowing money again. Absolutely not. The mere thought of borrowing money and facing Rael again was enough to make her shiver. Behind her, Raphael let out a relieved sigh. Thank goodness she didn't ask further. But as she watched Gabrielle's back, a question lingered in Raphael's mind. If Rael and Gabrielle weren't in a relationship, as he claimed, why had they kissed? Back at Yukino's apartment. Having finished her shower, Yukino stepped out in fresh clothes. The living room scene was complicated. Rael sat on the sofa, flexing his sore hand with a satisfied look. Mabel lay face down beside him, her eyes dull and lifeless. Her red, swollen butt was impossible to ignore. When Rael saw Yukino, he stood up and gestured toward Mabel. She's all yours now. I've straightened her out. If she causes any trouble in the next few days, let me know. Okay. Yukino's voice was quiet. She glanced at the soaked sofa, unsure what to say. Ever since joining the chat group, her tolerance for the absurd had grown exponentially. Things that would have been unthinkable before, like Mabel being spanked until she cried, seemed almost normal now. She even managed a polite thank you. Rael waved it off. No problem. I'll head out now. With that, he left, leaving behind a sniffling Mabel, who looked up at Yukino with teary eyes. Yukino, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Her apology was genuine, and Yukino could see the remorse in her expression. She sighed. I forgive you. Hearing that, Mabel's tense shoulders relaxed, and she let out a breath of relief. Despite her flaws, she truly valued Yukino as a friend. But when she tried to sit up, her butt pressed against the wet sofa cushion. The sudden sting made her face twist in pain. Ah! It hurts. Once again, screams echoed through Yukino's apartment. Chapter 156, A Complaint Letter from the Dead. The following morning, a pink-haired figure appeared at the entrance of Rayou's classroom. "Excuse me, could you help me call Rayou over?" "Oh, sure. Rayou, someone's here for you." Rayou looked toward the window. The reflection of pink hair against the glass surprised him. The person waiting for him was Chika Fujiwara. Why is she looking for me? The two of them had hardly spoken before. Curious, Rayou left the classroom. Chika immediately stepped forward, closing the gap between them in 2 brisk steps. "Hi. I'm Chika Fujiwara from Class 3-4. Are you Rayou?" "That's me. What's this about, Fujiwara-san?" "Hee, great. I found the right person." Chika flashed a bright, adorable smile. "So, Rayou-kun, I wanted to ask. How did you manage to suddenly skyrocket to the top of the rankings in the midterms?" Her eyes sparkled with curiosity and excitement. "Are you one of those insanely smart geniuses from light novels who can control their scores at will?" Rayou raised an eyebrow. "You mean a score-controlling genius?" "Yes, exactly. That's it." Chika's eyes lit up with admiration, as if she'd found a kindred spirit. Unfortunately, Rayou's answer dashed her expectations. "I'm not some score-controlling genius. I just improved a lot in that period, that's all." "Ah. So that's all it was." Chika didn't seem suspicious or rude, but she quickly returned to her original purpose for seeking him out. "Then, Rayou-kun, since you improved so much, do you have any special techniques? You want to learn them?" Hee. Chika scratched her head sheepishly, looking both hopeful and frustrated. "Honestly, my grades are always just a little shy of being good. I've been spending so much time in tutoring sessions lately that I barely have any allowance left or time to play." "So that's what this is about? Wanting more playtime, huh?" Still, Rayou's response wasn't what she was hoping for. "I don't really have any special techniques. It just came naturally." His improvement stemmed from his enhanced cognitive abilities. A perk of his unique situation. It wasn't something Chika could emulate. Is that so?" Chika visibly deflated, her disappointment evident. However, she quickly composed herself and gave him an apologetic smile. "Sorry for bothering you with all these questions." "It's no bother." Rayou offered a piece of advice. "If you really want to improve, just focus on paying attention in class and studying diligently. There usually aren't any shortcuts." Of course, Rayou privately admitted he did have some unconventional ways to improve, but they weren't exactly applicable to Chika. Chika nodded awkwardly. "I'll try my best." She walked away slowly, her head hanging low in disappointment. Rayou watched her retreating figure and chuckled softly. Clearly, expecting her to study seriously was a bit of a stretch. Chika Fujiwara probably preferred board games and gossip far more than cracking open a textbook. Tomorrow was Saturday. The student council office was scheduled for its regular cleaning. "Kaguya-chan, life is so hard," Chika Fujiwara lamented dramatically as she wiped the tables. Dragging a mop across the floor, Kaguya Shinamiya rolled her eyes. "Let me guess. Your so-called hardship is just supplementary lessons because of your poor grades?" "Boo, yes, I have to attend an hour of extra classes every day." "Kaguya-chan, you have no idea how precious my time is to me." Chika sniffled, looking as if she were on the verge of tears. But her sadness was clearly superficial. "Time? For you, that just means gossiping and playing board games, doesn't it?" Kaguya's cold words pierced through Chika's attempt to dramatize her trivial complaints. She couldn't fathom how this cancer of earth did anything but fool around. Chika froze, a faint escaping her lips. She looked pitifully at Kaguya and muttered. "You don't understand my pain, Kaguya-chan, since you're always first in class. I wish I could be first, too." "First?" Hearing the word, Kaguya's gaze darkened. Her grip on the mop tightened involuntarily. "I'm not first right now." "Oh, that's true. Rayou-kun was first this time." Chika finally remembered. "Humphrey." A deep sigh escaped her lips. "I even went to see Rayou-kun today, you know." Kaguya raised an eyebrow. Why would Chika have any interaction with him? Chika quickly explained. "I wanted to ask Rayou-kun if he had any special techniques to improve grades so quickly." "There are no such shortcuts," Kaguya stated firmly. "Exactly. That's what Rayou-kun said too. What a shame. I wish I could be a genius like you too." Chika sighed, her face full of admiration and envy. A genius? Kaguya didn't consider herself a genius. She simply studied hard and learned a lot. Unbeknownst to others, She put in significant effort behind the scenes. She was surprised Rao had said something similar. For some reason, she felt a sense of camaraderie. He must have worked hard to improve his grades, just as she had. But I won't lose. A fiery determination to reclaim the top spot burned in Kaguya's eyes. She firmly believed she'd be number one again next time. Eh? What's this? Suddenly, Chika paused her cleaning. She bent down and pulled an envelope out from between the desk crevices. It '*A complaint letter. The words complaint letter written in bold on the envelope confused her. A complaint letter? Kaguya walked over. Who's it addressed to? Let me see. Chika turned the envelope over and looked at the sender's name. The moment she saw it, she screamed. Ah! Chika threw the letter away like it was cursed. What's wrong? Kaguya couldn't understand Chika's sudden outburst. A ghost. It's a ghost, Kaguya-chan. Chika, trembling like a frightened bird, clung to Kaguya's back. A ghost? Ghosts don't exist. Kaguya's expression was filled with disdain. What exactly did you see? Chika whimpered pitifully. The complaint letter. It's from Tomoyaki. Him? Kaguya's expression shifted. Tomoyaki, his name was infamous around the school. He was the student who'd tragically passed away in an accident, leading to several days of cancelled classes. His complaint letter. Looking at the desk crevice, Kaguya made a guess. It must have fallen in there and gone unnoticed before his death. She bent down, picked up the letter, and checked the date. Sure enough, it was dated before Tomoyaki's untimely death. Phew, that scared me. I really thought it was a ghost, Chika muttered, patting her chest in relief. Her dramatic gesture inadvertently set certain assets into motion. Cancer of the earth. Kaguya did her best to ignore Chika's excessive energy. She tore open the complaint letter and began reading. Curious, Chika leaned in closer. As they read the contents, both gasped softly. Eh? Chika's cherry pink lips parted in surprise. Kaguya's crimson eyes narrowed, filled with intrigue. This complaint letter. It needs to be investigated thoroughly. Chapter 157, New Members. Yippee. At noon, Rao found Shizuka Hiratsuka. Hiratsuka-sensei, I'm here to request leave. Behind her desk, Shizuka Hiratsuka raised an incredulous eyebrow. You're requesting leave again? Do you even remember how many times you've taken leave in the past 2 weeks? Hiratsuka-sensei, you know I'm not like other people. Shizuka was speechless. Is there really so much going on in the other world? Rao shook his head. While the state of the world does make disturbances more likely, like Tomoyaki's death, this time I'm just visiting a friend. Huh? She had assumed he was off to deal with some extraordinary issue. But what she just heard didn't sound like it at all. And? Did you just mention Tomoyaki? Shizuka felt as if she were brushing up against something deeply unsettling. Wasn't his death an accident? Her voice lowered, and a glint of curiosity sparked in her eyes. It felt impossible to let this mystery lie unsolved. He was killed by a demon. TSK. Hearing the truth about Tomoyaki's death, Shizuka couldn't hide her shock. If that's true, the world's far more dangerous than I thought. Rao wasn't trying to frighten her. He simply wanted to give her a reminder, so, Hiratsuka-sensei, avoid deserted places whenever you can. Trouble doesn't find those who don't go looking for it. I'm just a regular person. If you're saying this, do you think I'd dare wander around? Shizuka chuckled bitterly. But if I ever did encounter something, I don't even know what I'd do. No sooner had she said this than Rao suddenly took a step forward. In the blink of an eye, the distance between them shrank to barely the length of a fist. Even more outrageous. His arm slipped boldly around her waist. If it happens, just contact me, Rao declared earnestly. I'm courting you now, Hiratsuka-sensei, so naturally, I'd come to your rescue. But don't mistake me for a pushover. I'm only in this for you. Shizuka's body softened under his fiery gaze, but her reason kicked in. She shoved him away, her face a mix of fury and embarrassment. Don't you dare act so disrespectfully toward your teacher. Besides, I'm not interested in little brats like you. As she spoke, her eyes instinctively flickered downward. TCH. Why is that so visible? There was no way something like that belonged on a so-called little brat. Hiratsuka-sensei, what are you looking at? Rao asked with a sly grin. Ahem. Shizuka coughed loudly, trying to mask her embarrassment, and quickly changed the subject. Fine. Your leave is approved. Now get out, quickly. She was genuinely worried that if Rao stayed a moment longer, her composure as a teacher would completely crumble. Thanks, Hiratsuka-sensei. With a smile, Rao didn't push her further. He turned and left without another word. The office fell silent. Only then did Shizuka realize how unusually she was acting. Thump, thump, thump. Her heartbeat echoed loudly in her ears, fast and irregular. Her cheeks burned as heat flooded her face. Did he just get to me? Shizuka stared at the door in disbelief. Had she really just been flustered by a kid? No, Rei-ao wasn't exactly a kid. Recalling the unreasonable proportions she'd just glimpsed, she clicked her tongue internally. She had always thought the jokes about him juggling multiple women were exaggerations. Now, she wasn't so sure. Ugh, what am I even thinking? Get a grip, Shizuka Hiratsuka. Berating herself for her stray thoughts, Shizuka was convinced that if she let this go on, she'd end up doing something utterly indecent. If she stooped to dating someone that much younger. It wasn't just others who'd look down on her, she wouldn't be able to respect herself either. She needed advice. And fast. Haruno Yuki no Shida. Only one name came to mind. After a moment of deliberation, she pulled out her phone. Rei-ao's leave of absence had a purpose. Stella had reminded him about the upcoming intra-school battle at Hagon Academy. Initially, Rei-ao planned to directly have Kirano Shingoji initiate a trade request. However, something unexpected caught his attention. Ding. Hajire Kasuga has joined the chat group, ding. Shino Aragi has joined the chat group, 2 new members had joined the chat group. The names felt slightly unfamiliar to Rei-ao. Or at least, he couldn't immediately recall who they were. He decided to check their profiles. Name, Shino Aragi, level, 10, abilities, none, items, cursed gear, Shikama Dojo, cursed talisman, cursed gear stimulant sitzer. Seeing her abilities and items jogged Rei-ao's memory. She was Shino Aragi from Seraph of the End. The other newcomer, however. Name, Hajire Kasuga, level, 15, abilities, magic, items, grimoire, a still manuscript. This one left Rei-ao stumped for a moment. Magic. Grimoire. He mulled over the clues for a while before finally recalling an obscure title from his distant memories, Trinity 7. The younger sister of the protagonist. Note, Hajire Kasuga's character and setting will be adjusted accordingly. If you know, you know. Rei-ao found the addition of these two to be a pleasant surprise. Both worlds represented unique power systems. One steeped in vampire progenitors and angels, the other revolving around demon lords and forbidden magical grimoire. These worlds piqued his interest. Of course, his curiosity wasn't just academic. He was also interested in the 2 new members themselves. Both of whom were undoubtedly within his target range of beautiful girls. In fact, Hajire Kasuga's world, the Royal Biblia Academy, featured multiple striking female characters, each with distinct personalities, appearances, and charms. Since they had joined, it was only natural for Rei-ao to greet them. Rei-ao, Hajire Kasuga, Shino Aragi, welcome to the chat group. Megami Kato, they're probably not from our world, right? Rei-ao, at least, I haven't come across them in this one. He couldn't say for sure, though. Given that both Taru and Mabel were also from entirely different worlds yet had made their way here. Sukobu Jujima, welcome. New members. Ayami Yamagawa, welcome. Shino Aragi? Shino Aragi, another world? Are you serious? Chapter 158, Shizu, I'm not part of Rei-ao's harem? Did overindulgence impair your memory? Second Shibuya High School. In the classroom, a lavender-haired girl, anime-style depiction, stared in astonishment at the sudden appearance of the trade chat group. Her violet-red eyes, filled with world-worn wisdom, reflected deep confusion. What a strange thing. This girl was Shino Aragi. On the surface, she appeared to be just an ordinary high school student. However, in reality, she was the second daughter of the Aragi family, the rulers of Japan's cursed gear organization. The Imperial Demon Army. Shino had been assigned to 2nd Shibuya High School as an inspector, tasked with keeping an eye on Uichiro Hyakaya. Naturally, her position granted her extensive knowledge about many things. Vampires, vampire progenitors, cursed gears, and so on. But she had never heard of something like this trade chat group, capable of enabling cross-world communication and trades. The knowledge embedded in her mind, however, seemed to confirm its legitimacy. Faced with something so far beyond her comprehension, Shino approached it with cautious skepticism. She mentally called out to her companion, Shi-chan, can you see anything unusual in front of me? Or detective I've been cursed? A voice responded in her mind. This was the voice of Shi-chan, the demon sealed within her cursed gear, the Shikama Dojo. Cursed gears were weapons created by binding and sealing demons into them. They were humanity's only means of combating vampires. By forming contracts with the demons within cursed gears, their wielders could gain physical capabilities 7 times stronger than an ordinary human. However, a weak-willed wielder could end up consumed by the demon, turning into one themselves. Shikama Dojo was the demon bound to Shinoa's weapon, and she had given it the affectionate nickname Shi-chan. I see nothing. Why do you ask? Shi-chan's voice carried a hint of curiosity. Shinoa fell silent for a moment before shaking her head. It's nothing. Her response was dismissive, but inwardly she was filled with conflicting emotions. The trade chat group was visible only to her. I need to figure out the truth behind this, she resolved. Frieren, we're indeed beings from different worlds. We've already confirmed this by traveling between them. Sui, if you want to verify it yourself, you can initiate a trade with Rayao. Shinoa Aragi, apologies, but I currently have nothing to trade. Rayao, that's fine. Just remember the chat group exists if you ever need it. Shinoa Aragi, group leader. Are you the one in charge here? Rayao, you could put it that way. Shinoa Aragi, then may I ask why I was chosen? Rayao, you weren't chosen by me. The chat group randomly selects its members to invite. Shinoa Aragi. I see. Hajiri Kasuga, does that apply to me too? At her school, during a short break, Hajiri Kasuga had found a secluded spot where she could focus on the chat group. She was carefully examining its nature. There were no magical energy traces. So it's not magic? Without any tangible magical elements to study, Hajiri had no choice but to accept the chat group's existence as is. What a fascinating thing. The blue-haired girl with a prominent ouch had a spark of curiosity in her eyes, both for the chat group and the concept of other worlds. Just as she was about to delve deeper into her analysis. Hajiri? A voice interrupted her thoughts. Looking up, Hajiri saw a boy with short, slightly messy red hair and striking crimson eyes. Brother, she called out. This was her older cousin, Arata Kasuga. Hajiri only felt familial affection for him. When she was a child, back when their parents were still alive, Hajiri had adored her cousin. However, after their parents' tragic deaths, Arata had matured quickly and taken on the role of an elder brother. Over time, he had deliberately kept some distance between them. Now, Hajiri regarded him with nothing but sibling-like care. Note, this alters the original setting slightly. Arata approached, holding a bag of pineapple buns. His brows furrowed slightly as he looked at her. What are you doing here? It's quiet here, Hajiri replied calmly. I came to relax and clear my mind. She had already realized that the chat group's rules prevented her from revealing its existence. Thus, she gave him a plausible excuse. I see, Arata said with a nod. I won't disturb you, then. With that, he turned and walked away. Staring at her brother's departing figure, Hajiri Kasuga let out a sigh. First, she had hidden her identity as a maid from her brother. Now, she had another secret to keep. The existence of the trade chat group. I guess I'll have to wait for the right moment to reveal my identity, she thought, her gaze shifting back to the chat group interface. Sakurajima, both newcomers have spoken up. They seem like people we can communicate with peacefully. Yukino Shida. So far, we haven't had anyone in the chat group who couldn't engage in friendly communication. There was one. Taru, huh? When have I ever been unfriendly? Don't spread lies about me in front of my darling. Yukino Shida. Megami Kato, darling. You two seem to have quite an intimate relationship. Taru, of course. I'm already preparing to give Rayao dragon baby Shinoa Aragi. Wait, are you two a couple? Rayao, hey, Taru, no need to flaunt your affection so blatantly. Hajiri Kasuga, hold on, dragon babies. What does that even mean? Taru, because I'm a dragon. Hajiri Kasuga. Frieren, don't mind it, newcomer. Rayao is just building his own harem here in the chat group. Hajiri Kasuga, eh? Are you part of it too? Frieren, oh no, not me. Frieren, but these are, Stella, Yukino Shida, Mabel, Shizu Aizawa. Apart from them, pretty much everyone else is. Mabel, don't hit me. I'm sorry, sob. Stella? What's going on now? Sakobujujima, who's hitting you? Yukino Shita-san? Yukino Shida, I didn't touch her. Rayao, I did. Megami Kato, did Mabel do something wrong? Sakurajima, probably something bad, right? Stella, wait, why are all of you assuming Rayao wasn't just bullying her? Ayama Magawa, isn't trusting Rayao-sama the natural choice? Stella. Frieren, human emotions are truly strange. Rayao, well, it's not entirely her fault. Rayao, to put it simply, she was wandering around Yukino Shita's home without wearing clothes. I accidentally saw her, and she started screaming while drawing her god-freezing sword to attack me. Taru, oh, yesterday? I did sense a surge of ice magic nearby. Yukino Shida, that's not all. Then, Yukino stood up to give the full, unembellished account of what had happened. Yukino Shida, I was standing right next to Rayao at the time. If it weren't for his intervention, I might not be here to explain. Frieren, I see. So it was to defend Yukino that you disciplined her. My Sakurajima, in the real world, ordinary people shouldn't be targeted with abilities so casually. Sui, the ice tribe really is unreliable. Mabel, sob, I know I was wrong. I promise I won't do it again. Ayami Yamagawa, acknowledging your mistake and changing is the mark of a good child. Stella, she's not exactly a child anymore, is she? Shizu Aizawa, wait, am I not one of Reiao's harem members too? Reiao, huh? Stella, what's this? You can't even keep track of your own actions? My Sakurajima, did you sleep with her? Reiao, no, I didn't. Akam, conflicting testimonies? Megumi Kato, Reiao and Shizu aren't criminal suspects, you know. Frieren, could doing this so often cause memory loss? Yukino Shida, science suggests overindulgence can impair memory, but outright amnesia seems unlikely. Yukino Shida, perhaps his level of overindulgence goes far beyond the norm. Reiao. Yukino Shida-san, when did you start casually discussing topics like this? You've changed. Yukino Shida, I was just sharing knowledge. Yukino felt slightly flustered as Reiao pointed this out. In the past, she would have avoided topics like this altogether, even expressing disgust at such things. Now, though, she realized she was willingly participating in conversations she once found distasteful. Looking at her hands, Yukino admitted to herself for the first time. Perhaps she really had changed. Meanwhile, Reiao was left momentarily puzzled. Had he slept with Shizu? Surely, he wouldn't forget something like that. But then, Shizu shyly clarified. Shizu Aizawa, no. Everyone misunderstood. It wasn't sleeping together. It was just a kiss. Stella, a kiss? Reiao, oh, that. Yeah, I remember now. Reiao chuckled wryly. A kiss? Sure, that had happened. Chapter 159, Shizu's Confession. Velzard and Velgrind, a good-wing woman. Reiao certainly remembered the kiss he had shared with Shizu Aizawa. Reiao, it was when the fire spirit Evo went berserk. I granted Shizu a protective blessing through a kiss to stabilize her body, which was on the verge of shattering. Frieren, that was during the last unexpected exchange, wasn't it? My Sakurajima, does the blessing have to be granted through a kiss? Reiao, of course not. I just happen to prefer the ceremonial feel of it. Stella, huh? Are you sure that's not just an excuse to take advantage? Reiao, you could see it that way, but only if we're talking about beautiful women. Frieren, Reiao, you're as blunt as ever. By the way, is there a way for me to get a blessing? Reiao, of course. The specifics. Well, you understand. Frieren, a trade. Sigh. Unfortunately, I have nothing to offer but my body. Shizu Aizawa, actually, that was my first kiss. Sister Velgren told me that having Reiao's blessing meant I was his woman, so. This statement essentially clarified the topic. Reiao, you don't need to think too much about it. Reiao, a blessing doesn't mean anything beyond its purpose. At that moment, it was simply the only way I could repair your broken body. Reiao, so there's no need for you to regard yourself as my woman just because of the blessing. Shizu Aizawa, is that so? Shizu's expression suddenly became a bit downcast. In truth, she had a favorable impression of Reiao, who had saved her life. Moreover, Velgrind and Velzard's earlier whispers had already led her to accept the idea. But Reiao's words now made her feel unworthy. Sigh. Velzard let out a soft sigh at the sight. Shizu, you're just too honest. She couldn't bear to watch anymore. Shizu was overly considerate of others and a bit self-deprecating. You can't let your happiness slip away. I guess I'll have to step in for you. Without hesitation, Velzard tagged Reiao in the group chat. Velgrind, Reiao, you're mistaken. Shizu likes you and wants to mate with you. You wouldn't refuse that, would you? Shizu Aizawa, Sister Velgrind. Shizu's face turned beet red. A mate? That sounds like something a wild animal would do. Velzard chuckled from the side. I think Velgrind is absolutely right. Happiness is something you need to chase for yourself. Both Velzard and Velgrind genuinely cared for Shizu. In their eyes, she was truly one of their own. Velzard, Reiao, I can vouch for her. It's true. Velzard, just now, when you rejected her, Shizu was really down. She probably thinks she's not good enough for you and that you dislike her. Reiao, what? That really surprised him. Reiao, I'm sorry, Shizu. You might have misunderstood my intentions. Reiao, I didn't mean to make you feel disliked or unworthy. I just hoped that if you liked me, it wouldn't be because of something like a blessing that forces your hand. Shizu Aizawa, so. Reiao, you don't dislike me? Reiao, of course not. Reiao, on the contrary, even if you hadn't confessed to me, I would have found an opportunity to pursue you myself. Rao, after all, when I first met you, I realized one thing: I had to have you. Shizu Aizawa, what? Shizu hadn't expected such an intense confession to be turned back on her so suddenly. She could barely control her racing heartbeat. Rao, are you sure this is truly what you want? Rao confirmed once more. Shizu Aizawa, yes. Shizu answered without the slightest hesitation. Rao, alright. From now on, Shizu, you're my woman. Let's head over to Stella's later to watch the match together. He had no reason to refuse someone who willingly came to him. Shizu Aizawa, okay. Main chatroom, Shino Aragi, even though I couldn't chime in on your earlier conversation, the gossip was quite entertaining. Hajire Kasuga, romantic gossip is definitely intriguing, but harems and all that. Don't you think it's a bit too unrealistic? Rao, if crossing worlds is possible, what can't be considered realistic? Hajire Kasuga, that's true, I suppose. Taru, haha, that was a decisive comeback. Never mind crossing worlds. Taru's own world had its share of magic. Some mages indeed had more than one romantic partner, though nothing as exaggerated as what the chat group suggested. Shino Aragi, so, can anyone tell me what being chosen by this chat group actually means? Ayam Yamagawa, maybe it means the chance for salvation? Sakobujujima, it could also be an opportunity to embark on a new path. Rao, what being chosen represents depends on your own needs. Rao, but at its core, it's still about trade and interaction. Shino Aragi, I see. Thank you for the clarification. Stella, Rao, my match is about to start. Hurry up and get over here. Rao, eager, are we? Stella, who's eager? I just want to show you how strong I am. Rao, alright. Shino Aragi, and what are you two talking about now? Sakobujujima, to put it simply, Stella's Academy is holding an internal ranking match, and she's invited Rao to watch. Shino Aragi, aren't they from different worlds? Are they really traveling across worlds to do this? My Sakurajima, that's right. Hajire Kasuga, is that actually possible? Rao, if you want to experience it yourself, just accept the world travel prompt when it appears. As soon as he said this, a prompt popped up in the chat group. He had already informed Kiro beforehand. Ding. Trade initiated, trade partner, Kirano Shinji, trade details, watching the Hagun Academy internal matches, trade condition, one-time body usage rights, duration, 3 hours, but 3 hours clearly wouldn't be enough, so a second trade immediately followed. Ding. Trade initiated, trade partner, Kirano Shinji, trade details, Bangher, trade condition, one-time body usage rights, duration, 3 hours. With these two trades, they now had 6 hours. So annoying, Rao muttered. Isn't there a way to get longer stays in a single trade? As if on cue, a new prompt appeared. Ding. Your special request has been detected. The chat group's trade system will undergo an upgrade to address extended stay trades. Estimated time, 24 hours. Please look forward to it. Rao had just been about to leave a bad review, but now he had to give 5 stars. 24 hours? I'll be looking forward to it. Hopefully, the chat group would deliver something worthwhile. Chapter 160, Shikomadoji, First Progenitor Hagun Academy. The dueling arena was packed to capacity once again today. The excitement was far greater than during the director's duel last time. This was the annual school battle, an event that determined the Academy's strongest rankings. Who wouldn't want to be crowned the strongest in Hagun Academy? Students from all grades participated, and nearly everyone was in attendance, creating an electrifying atmosphere. Rao, the duel hasn't started yet, has it? Rao appeared beside Kirano Shinji, with Shizu Aizawa following close behind. Shizu Aizawa, there are so many people. Kirano Shinji, Stella's duel starts in a few minutes. Kirano, unfazed by their sudden arrival, calmly answered, gesturing toward the countdown displayed in the arena center through the glass. Rao scanned the surroundings. Rao, you picked a pretty good spot. The location was a private viewing box extending from an upper platform at the edge of the dueling arena. A massive pane of glass in front provided a clear view of everything happening below. Kirano Shinji, this is a special observation box that only the Academy Director has the privilege to use. Kirano Shinji, the glass was recently upgraded to one-way, magic-resistant material. It wasn't necessary for her to specifically mention the glass, yet she did, prompting Rao to give her a meaningful look. Rao, you're certainly well prepared. Upon closer inspection, Kirano Shinji wasn't dressed in her usual formal director's attire. Instead, she wore a sleek, black gown that perfectly accentuated her figure. It was clear she had planned ahead. So this is another world? A sudden voice drew everyone's attention. Shino Aragi and Hajire Kasuga had appeared in the room. They had ultimately decided to cross over to verify the situation themselves, even requesting leave from their schools to make the trip. Hijiri Kasuga, the magical energy here is so abundant. S could feel the mana in the air. An entirely different world, yet it was brimming with magical energy. Before she could marvel further, or before Shinoa could take in the scene, Rei-ao suddenly blinked forward, appearing right in front of Shinoa. Shinoa Ragi, what are you doing? Thinking Rei-ao was about to attack her, she tensed up defensively. Rei-ao, tch. In truth, Rei-ao did act, but his target wasn't Shinoa herself. His cold gaze seemed to pierce through Shinoa. Or rather, into something deeper. Rei-ao, stow away. Looks like I'll have to invite you out. With a swift motion, Rei-ao's hand grabbed hold of a dark, gaseous energy emerging from Shinoa's body and yanked it out. A black-green scythe materialized in his hand. Shinoa Ragi, what are you doing? Shinoa's expression turned grim. That scythe. It was her cursed weapon, Shikamadoji. Shizu Aizawa and Kirano Shinji also looked confused by her sudden reaction. Rei-ao, tch. Looks like your world-hopping brought along a hitchhiker. Rei-ao smirked coldly, speaking directly to Shikamadoji. Rei-ao, the first vampire progenitor, Shikamadoji, isn't that right? Shinoa Ragi, what? Shinoa's eyes widened in shock. Did she hear that correctly? The first vampire progenitor. She knew very well what a vampire progenitor was. Vampires were bloodthirsty beings that dominated the world after its collapse. They possessed physical abilities far beyond humans and subsisted on human blood. The most powerful vampires were natural enemies of humanity, enslaving humans and building vampire cities filled with both common vampires and vampire nobles. At the top of the hierarchy were the vampire progenitors, rulers with unparalleled power and authority. Yet, humanity knew very little about the progenitors, let alone the first progenitor. But now, the person before her not only forcibly removed Shikamadoji from her, but also referred to it as the first progenitor? Shinoa Ragi, what nonsense are you spouting? Shikamadoji is the sealed demon of a cursed weapon. Shinoa's voice was firm, though doubt flickered in her eyes. Demons resided within cursed weapons. How could one of them possibly be a vampire progenitor? Her skepticism was reasonable, yet it only deepened her confusion. Rei-ao glanced at her. It seemed Shinoa wasn't aware of the true secret behind her cursed weapon. He didn't mind explaining. Rei-ao, I know a fair bit about your world. Or, to be precise, more than even you do. Rei-ao, so, have you ever considered the possibility that the so-called demons in your cursed weapons are actually vampires who lost their physical forms? Shinoa Ragi, that. Shinoa Ragi was utterly shocked. She had never considered such a possibility before. Throughout her education, from elementary school to university, nothing like this had ever been mentioned. Rei-ao, stow away, I'll give you 3 seconds to come out on your own, or I won't hesitate to reduce you to ash. Rei-ao's threat seemed casual, but it carried a weight that was impossible to ignore. Almost immediately, the scythe began to stir. Black energy surged once again, this time materializing into a humanoid figure. Shinoa Ragi, a vampire? Her gaze sharpened instantly. She recognized the distinct physical features unique to vampires at a glance. The figure, identified as Shikamadoji, looked at Shinoa and sighed. Shikamadoji, what a surprise. I never thought you'd encounter something like this. Shinoa Ragi, are you really the first progenitor? Her eyes locked onto him, burning with an eagerness to uncover the truth. Shikamadoji, in the presence of this esteemed individual, it seems I cannot deny it. There was a trace of bitterness in his voice. The first vampire progenitor, a being far removed from humanity, now had no choice but to show deference to a human before him. It was an undeniable reality. Rei-ao's presence was far more overwhelming than his own. Simply standing before Rei-ao was enough to sense a power surpassing everything Shikamadoji had ever known. Even greater than the forbidden seraph of the end he had personally created. And given that this was not his own world, even the first progenitor had to behave. Rei-ao, spare me the flattery. Rei-ao had no interest in his respect or compliments. Rei-ao, no matter how pretty your words are, as a stowaway, you must die. His tone made it clear, he fully intended to eliminate this intruder. Not out of some noble duty to protect humanity or any particular race, but simply because this being had trespassed. And because Rei-ao would not tolerate a dangerous presence lingering near Shinoa Ragi, his intended target. The atmosphere grew tense. Shikamadoji, sensing the calm resolve in Rei-ao's demeanor, felt a pang of helplessness. He could tell that this human was not someone who could be swayed by mere words. After a long silence, Shikamadoji's gaze shifted. He assessed his surroundings, scanning the quietly observing Shizu Aizawa, Kirano Shinji, and Hijiri Kasuga. Rei-ao, I'd advise you against having any designs on them. Otherwise, your death won't be so merciful. With a sudden roar, crimson flames erupted in Rao's hand. Shikamotoji. Just looking at the flames made Shikamotoji feel as if his soul was being burned. These weren't ordinary flames, they were the true crimson flames, capable of incinerating even the soul. A swift death would be the greatest mercy he could hope for. But if he dared to resist, Rao wouldn't hesitate to make him suffer a fate worse than death. Shikamotoji, your power is truly awe-inspiring, esteemed human. I've never encountered anyone like you before. Reluctantly, Shikamotoji abandoned his last thoughts of resistance. Shikamotoji, rest assured, I hope for a swift death as much as you do. In fact, I've long wished for someone who could kill me. Escape was impossible. Even his soul warned him of this. For Shikamotoji, resignation was the only option. He wasn't wrong, either. In his original world, no one could kill him. Not even the Seraph of the End. Somewhere deep down, he had indeed wished for someone capable of ending his existence. Rao chuckled softly. He wasn't particularly concerned about Shikamotoji trying to flee. Vampire, Shikamotoji, level 35, abilities, vampire progenitor. His power was decent, but nothing extraordinary. If he did attempt to run, it would simply mean a little more effort on Rao's part. After all, the overall strength of Shinoa's world wasn't very high. Not even the artificially created entities like the angel horns or seraphim could measure up. That said, in that world, vampires were undeniably dominant, their strength holding humanity firmly underfoot. Shikamotoji quickly realized that Rao's stance remained unmoved. At this point, he was certain there was no chance of escape. With a faint smile of resignation, he murmured, Shikamotoji, to think I'd meet my end because of her unexpected encounter. It's a shame I couldn't complete my plan. His tone carried the mix of helplessness and a strange acceptance of death. Shinoa Aragi, a plan? What exactly are you plotting? The revelation of Shikamotoji's identity had flooded Shinoa's mind with questions. How could the esteemed first progenitor of vampires become a mere sealed spirit within a cursed weapon? Something was profoundly wrong here. Shikamotoji, esteemed one, I hope you don't mind if I borrow a bit of your time to explain some things to her. Having come to terms with his fate, Shikamotoji was unbothered by the vampire-human conflict in his original world anymore. Rao, you have 5 minutes. Stella's duel would start in 5 minutes, and Rao had no intention of wasting time on a soon-to-be-dead individual. Shikamotoji didn't argue. He knew he wasn't in a position to negotiate. Without delay, he began to reveal his purpose to Shinoa Aragi. Chapter 161, The Match of Stella. Shikamotoji's story was deeply tied to the Hagi family, to which Shinoa Aragi's lineage belonged. The Hagi family was a prestigious clan renowned as masters of sorcery, rulers of Japan's imperial demon army, with a history spanning over 1,200 years. As the center of Japan's Hyakaya sect, the Hagi family commanded immense authority and influence. Before the fall of the world, the Hagi family stood at the apex of the religious organization Demons of the Empire, wielding absolute power. To underscore their dominance, those bearing the name Hagi were granted supreme rights and status. Shikamotoji, however, was the true mastermind behind the Hagi family, orchestrating countless tragedies from the shadows. He had been possessing the head of the Hagi family, Tenri Hagi, for generations. Revered by the Hagi family as an old god, Shikamotoji conducted forbidden experiments involving the Seraph of the End, which he considered his property. Because the Seraph of the End's power originated from him, it was incapable of killing him. Shikamotoji had long awaited someone capable of killing Tenri Hagi so he could transfer his possession to that person and make them the ruler of humanity. Tenri Hagi eventually perished, but the experiments continued. Shinoa Hagi and her elder sister, Mahiru Hagi, were both artificially conceived as female test subjects infected with demonic essence. Mahiru, over time, discovered that she could hear the calls of the demon residing within Shinoa. Shikamotoji. To protect her younger sister, Mahiru absorbed Shikamotoji into her own body. She was subsequently transformed by the Hyakaya sect into a demon weapon, shaped like a scythe. This weapon became Mahiru's second cursed tool. Before her death, Mahiru decided to return Shikamotoji to Shinoa, believing she needed the weapon to protect herself in the event of the world's collapse. Thus, Shikamotoji once again found himself at Shinoa's side. Shikamotoji's ultimate plan was to possess a member of the Iragi family, targeting either Shinoa Hagi or her brother, Kirito Iragi. His final goal? To revive his child, Mikhail, the most perfect vessel among his experimental subjects. Mikhaila Hyakaya. Shinoa Hagi listened intently, her thoughts swirling in turmoil. She had never imagined that her family harbored such dark secrets. Though she wanted to press for more details, the dueling arena's loudspeaker interrupted her thoughts. This duel features Stella Vermilion vs Iki Kurogen. Rao, time's up. Right on the 5-minute mark, Rao acted without hesitation, not bothering to entertain any further discussion. With a sharp motion, he thrust his right hand into Shikomadoji's chest. Since Shikomadoji had no physical body, there was no blood. Whoosh! Crimson flames erupted from Rao's hand, igniting Shikomadoji's form. Rao didn't settle for simply destroying the soul. He meticulously erased Shikomadoji's spirit, consciousness, and existence from his energy source. The flames, unhindered, consumed Shikomadoji's soul completely. As his body disintegrated, he reverted into pure black demonic energy, which gradually flowed back into Shinoa's cursed weapon. Rao casually tossed the weapon back to the stunned Shinoa Hiragi. Rao, your weapon is still usable, just minus the vampire. He smirked. Rao, I took care of the stowaway for you. No objections, I assume? Shinoa caught the weapon, her mind still reeling from the revelations and Rao's decisive actions. After a brief moment, she shook her head. Shinoa Hiragi, no objections. Meanwhile, Shizu Aizawa pointed to the dueling arena below. Shizu Aizawa, Stella is about to enter the stage. As the duel began, Rao turned to Kurano Shinji. Rao, is there another room nearby where these two can stay? Clearly, he had plans and didn't want any third wheels lingering around. Kurano Shinji, this way, please. Understanding Rao's intentions, Kurano led the still confused Hijiri Kasuga and Shinoa Hiragi out of the room. Rao then stepped closer to Shizu, wrapping an arm around her waist and inhaling the scent of her soft hair. Rao, Shizu, are you okay with becoming my woman in a world that isn't your own? Shizu immediately understood his meaning, her cheeks flushing with shyness. She nodded hesitantly. Shizu Aizawa, yes. I've already made up my mind. Still, she hesitated for a moment before murmuring, Shizu Aizawa, it's just. I'm not very experienced, and I'm afraid. Afraid I won't be able to satisfy you. In this area, Shizu felt a bit insecure. After forming a contract with the flame spirit, her human desires had diminished to nearly nothing. She had no experience in such matters, not even the ability to relax herself. Rao smiled confidently. Don't worry. I'll teach you everything. The goal isn't just to satisfy me. It's to make sure you're fulfilled. Ah. Shizu felt a gentle push and found herself pressed against the one-way glass. From this vantage point, she could perfectly see the scene below. In the arena, Stella, dressed in a striking red gown, walked to the center. Opposite her stood the person she found most annoying. Ikki Kurogane. Ikki, for his part, felt awkward but quickly composed himself. Though he was looked down upon at the academy for his F-rank blazer classification, he firmly believed in his swordsmanship. Stella, however, paid him no attention. Her gaze shifted upward toward the special observation deck that only the academy director could access. Although she couldn't see inside, she knew Rao was there watching her. Just to be sure, she sent a message in the chat group. Stella, Rao, watch closely. I'll show you my strength. Rao, hey, I'm looking forward to it. But don't underestimate your opponent. While he may lack magical power, his swordsmanship is far superior to yours. Even though Stella had recently improved, Rao reminded her not to let arrogance cloud her judgment. Profile, Stella Vermilion, Level 23, Abilities, redacted. Stella's strength came from a combination of physical prowess, magic, abilities, and her inherent device. Profile, Ikki Kurogane, Level 18, Abilities, 7 secret swords. Itashura. Ituraze Etsu. Mimic swordsmanship. Complete mastery. Twin wings style. Inherent device. Tetsuiki's abilities were entirely rooted in swordsmanship, making him a prodigy among prodigies. Notably, his techniques allowed him to enhance his physical capabilities dramatically. Itashura amplified his physical limits dozens of times in an instant. Ituraze Etsu increased his strength hundreds of times in a single moment. Even for someone as strong as Stella, underestimating him could easily result in defeat. Stella, Humphrey. I won't lose. Sakobujujima, Rao is reminding you not to let your guard down. You should always take every opponent seriously. Yukino Shida, even a lion uses all its strength to hunt a rabbit. Rao, see? They understand me better than you do. Stella, Humphrey, fine. I'll give it my all, okay? Taru, where's the fight footage? I thought I could sit back and enjoy the show. Acom, live broadcast. Fryron, yes, someone set up a stream. Rao, fine, I'll handle it. Ding. Rao has started a live stream, the room quickly filled with viewers. My Sakurajima, so many people. These are all students from Stella's academy? Sakobujujima, who's Stella's opponent? Stella, Humphrey, it's that peeping Ikki Kurogane. This time, I'll make sure he regrets it. Taru, does anyone else hear something strange? Acom, yeah, I do. Frieren, me too. Rao, is there something near you? Rao, yes, Shizu's here eating something. Mabel, what is it? Rao, a popsicle. Mabel, popsicle? I've had those. They're amazing. Yukino shida, haha, you ate all the popsicles in the freezer within half an hour, and you're still proud? Mabel, ugh. Next to Rao, Shizu shyly looked up, her face flushed. Shizu, Rao. Am I doing this right? Rao smiled. You're doing just fine. Just keep going. The duel begins. At the same time, Stella and Iki's battle commenced. Though she remained prideful outwardly, Stella took Rao's warning to heart. Anyone worthy of Kirano Shinji's respect and Rao's attention was unlikely to be as weak as they appeared. Whoosh! A fiery tornado erupted, and from within, a brilliant golden sword materialized in Stella's hand. Her inherent device, Levitating. Iki's expression grew serious as he silently drew his katana-like blade, his inherent device, Intetsu. To the audience, the scene seemed laughable. The Crimson Princess versus the Fallen Knight? What kind of ridiculous match is this? This fight isn't worth watching. The spectators' reactions were unsurprising. Both combatants were well known within Hagon Academy. But for very different reasons. The Crimson Princess, Stella Vermilion, was a name synonymous with honor. A princess of the Vermilion Kingdom and an A-rank blazer, her reputation was unmatched. On the other hand, the Fallen Knight, Iki Kurogane, was a derisive nickname stemming from his repeated failures and low magical aptitude. Considered the weakest of F-rank blazers, he was looked down upon by most of the academy. To the audience, the outcome seemed inevitable. The Crimson Princess would win, without question. Chapter 162, Itashura, Desperado, Fate, Vampires, Magicians. You sneaky little scoundrel, this time I'll make sure you're properly punished. Stella glared furiously, her eyes burning with anger. Boom. Violent flames roared like a dragon's breath, surging along the blade of her sword as she thrust it forward. Iki Kurogane's expression changed drastically. He hadn't expected Stella to go all out right from the start. Originally, he had planned to test her with his swordsmanship, but it seemed he couldn't even get close to her now. Gritting his teeth, he was forced to play his trump card, Itashura. This was Iki's ultimate pseudo-sword technique, created to help him overcome overwhelming enemies with all his strength. However, it could only be used once per day. The technique compressed all of his power into a single minute, forcibly concentrating his magical energy to enhance his physical abilities tenfold. As Stella's fiery attack closed in, Iki's entire body flared with a blue, flame-like aura. His magical energy so dense that it became visible to the naked eye. Though his body became significantly stronger, the price was steep. Once the technique ended, his body would rapidly weaken. Stella suddenly noticed a flash of light. Her dragon's breath flames were cleaved apart with a single slash. Emerging from the dissipating fire, Iki Kurogane stood dull and composed, his figure sharp and resolute. Stella immediately sensed a change in his aura. Iki, his gaze icy and focused, began to murmur to himself, humans are living beings, driven by an instinct to survive. Even if one forces themselves to push their limits, their instincts will always hold back enough strength to preserve life. Instinct separates and safeguards the energy needed to maintain vital functions. But he tightened his grip on his sword. Have used my willpower to break free from those instincts. He explained how he concentrated all of his remaining strength into a single minute, draining himself entirely to achieve explosive power in that fleeting window. By using Itashura, Iki's magical energy increased. However, this wasn't a technique designed to enhance magic. It forcibly drew out latent energy that a living being's soul was never meant to access. In this world, magical energy was considered the power of one's will and destiny. Aside from individuals who became desperado, everyone's magical capacity was fixed at birth. To acquire greater magical power, one had to surpass their own destiny and step into the realm of the desperado. Though Iki hadn't yet crossed that threshold, he was undeniably on the path to defying fate itself. Stella didn't fully understand the meaning behind his words, but she could clearly feel that Iki had grown stronger. She also began to grasp why Rao had warned her. If she let her guard down, there was a real possibility of losing. Humphrey, looks like I underestimated you. From now on, I'll take you seriously and defeat you. Her expression turned solemn. The flames around her grew even fiercer, transforming her long hair into blazing fire. The very air in the arena seemed to heat up as her power intensified. Iki's eyelid twitches. He suddenly regretted provoking Stella in the first place. She's not even giving me a chance to get close. The moment this thought crossed his mind, a massive blast of fire surged toward him. He had no choice but to evade. In the observation deck's adjacent room, Hajiri Kasuga and Shino Aragi, who had been placed there, were watching the battle unfold. Hajiri Kasuga was astonished. They're using magical energy, but it's not like the magic I know. There are no magic circles, no incantations. It's as if Stella's magic naturally takes the form of whatever she wants it to be. Shino Aragi, having recovered from the earlier revelations about Shikamotoji and the first progenitor, was no longer preoccupied with those matters. Shikamotoji was dead, and her cursed weapon was still functional. She had also gained a clearer understanding of Rei-Ao's strength. Now, as she watched Stella and Iki's fierce battle below, a hint of envy arose in her heart. It was a yearning for power. Strength that didn't rely on experiments or cursed weapons. If humans could wield such power, they could surely defeat vampires, she thought. Hajiri Kasuga noticed her thoughtful expression and decided to initiate a conversation. My name is Hajiri Kasuga, she said, introducing herself. Shino Aragi turned to her and responded with a polite smile. Hello, I'm Shino Aragi. Seeing that Shinoa was willing to converse, Hajiri felt a sense of relief and began to relax. I overheard your conversation earlier. It sounds like humans in your world are in a pretty dire situation, Hajiri Kasuga remarked. Yes. Shino Aragi sighed with resignation. The conflict between humans and vampires is inevitable. She turned to Hajiri and asked. By the way, do you know about vampires? I do, Hajiri replied with a nod, but then immediately shook her head. Though I'm not sure if the vampires I know are the same as the ones you're talking about. This piqued Shinoa's curiosity. What are vampires like in your world? Well, I've never seen a real vampire, Hajiri admitted. In my world, there's an outer world and an inner world. She proceeded to explain the basic structure of her world. The outer world was where ordinary people lived, oblivious to the existence of magic. The inner world, on the other hand, was a mysterious realm filled with magic and mystery. In most cases, the two worlds didn't interfere with or overlap each other. Ordinary people rarely came into contact with the magical aspects of the inner world. What a strange world. So, since you know all this, does that mean you're a magician? That's correct. Hajiri spread her right hand, and in the blink of an eye, a small, intricate book appeared in her palm. This is my grimoire, a spell manuscript. Magicians record spells into their grimoires, and once inscribed, the spells can be cast by reciting them. That simple? Shinoa's eyes sparkled with curiosity. This was a completely different power from the cursed weapons of her world. Can I learn it? Hajiri hesitated, her expression apologetic. I'm sorry, but only those who possess grimoires can use magic. And it's not something to be taken lightly. Magic can backfire if you underestimate it. She explained that magic wasn't an easy power to control. On the contrary, it was inherently dangerous. Many magicians, driven by curiosity, had become lost in the labyrinth of magic and could never return. These unfortunate souls fell into madness, consumed by their power. I see. That's unfortunate, Shinoa said, her disappointment evident. Hajiri put away her grimoire and returned to their earlier topic. Back to vampires, then. Vampires don't actually exist in my world. They're more like creatures from folklore and stories. She described them, they're pale-skinned monsters that can only move at night. Sunlight kills them, and they feed on human blood. Only active at night, afraid of sunlight. Shinoa was stunned by this description. In her world, vampires had no such weakness to sunlight. Are the vampires in your world like this? The first progenitor didn't seem to have those traits, Hajiri asked, curious. If only that were the case, Shinoa replied with a bitter smile. If sunlight could kill vampires, humanity might have had better methods to fight against them. In our world, vampires are less like monsters and more like a race of beings with unique origins. They have civilizations, hierarchies, societies, and cities, just like humans. This was the biggest difference between the vampires of her world and the monsters Hajiri described. They weren't simple beasts. They were intelligent, organized, and cultured. While also being far stronger than humans. To Shinoa, humanity often felt like the inferior race. What? Hajiri was taken aback. Civilizations and cities. Doesn't that mean your conflict is a full-blown racial war? Yes, it is, Shinoa admitted. War was far more terrifying than a mere struggle against monsters. It meant more death, more destruction, and potentially the annihilation of both sides. Sigh. I suppose that's just the fate of our world, Shinoa said wearily. No matter what, she would fight against the vampires, just as her sister had. But now, there was something else she needed to uncover. The truth behind the forbidden experiments known as Seraph of the End, carried out by both vampires and humans. The mention of fate sparked a thought in Hajiri. Could it also be fate that brought you into this trading chat group? Shinoa froze, her expression thoughtful. Trading. Hajiri's words reminded her of something. The man they had just encountered. Rei-Ao. Was undoubtedly the chat group's leader. He had allowed them to travel between worlds and had effortlessly destroyed the first progenitor's soul. That meant he was stronger than the first progenitor. If she could make a deal with someone like him. Shinoa's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden scream. Ah! Hajiri shrieked, startling Shinoa. What's wrong? Shinoa asked, instinctively glancing toward the dueling arena. Stella and Iki were still locked in a fierce battle, neither side gaining a clear advantage. Nothing seemed to have changed on the battlefield, and there was no immediate danger. So why was Hajiri screaming? Shinoa, confused, looked at Hajiri, who was blushing furiously, her face as red as a tomato. Covering her eyes, Hajiri stammered. The livestream in the chat group. Livestream? Following her lead, Shinoa opened the livestream in the chat group. The scene that appeared on her screen left Shinoa utterly dumbfounded. Chapter 163, Stella's Anger, Stella 1. On the glass platform, Shizu Aizawa and Kirano Shinji sat watching the match, with Rei-ao positioned right behind Shizu. All three maintained an outwardly serious demeanor, their focus seemingly on the duel below. Meanwhile, the chat group was in complete chaos. Frieren, Rei-ao, your desires truly know no bounds. You're watching a match, but you're also... Rei-ao, you don't understand. This is a battle. Rei-ao, fighting and spectating at the same time. Isn't it thrilling? Rei-ao, if you don't believe me, ask Shizu. Shizu Aizawa, as strange. It's such a strange experience. My Sakurajima, I give up. I don't even want to comment anymore. This guy is just a shameless pervert. Taru, ugh, how unfair. If I'd known, I would have asked to join the travel too. Taru, I just learned a new position I wanted to try out. I bet Rei-ao would love it. Rei-ao, oh? Well, we'll save that for later. I'll be looking forward to it. Taru, deal. Rei-ao, by the way, did you learn it too? Taru, she was very eager to practice, you know my Sakurajima. Shut up, Taru. Taru, hee hee. Megumi Kato. This feels oddly normal now. Megumi Kato, but Shizu wasn't even Rei-ao's girlfriend not too long ago, right? Rei-ao, she confessed to me just recently, so I accepted. Simple as that. Akam, not surprising. Frieren, yeah, it's Rei-ao. Nothing surprising about that. Frieren, but Shizu looks like she's in pain. Were you too rough with her? Rei-ao, first, I'm not violent. Second, being rough is just an unchangeable characteristic. Shizu Aizawa, Shizu's face flushed so deeply it seemed like blood might spill. Her heated body pressed tightly against the cool glass, and the knowledge that this was all being live-streamed only deepened her overwhelming shame. The live stream wasn't limited to just the main chat room. In Rei-ao's World's chat group, Yui Uegahama, is Rei-ao-kun always like this? Yui no longer knew how to describe her feelings. She had heard stories about Rei-ao before, but now, witnessing his interactions with Shizu and Kirano firsthand, her heart felt like it couldn't take it. Yukino Shida, at least since I joined the group, yes, this has been the norm. Yumiko Miura, ugh, he's always been like this. Yui, now that you've seen the truth, you should steer clear of him if you can't handle it. Yui Uegahama, eh? Yui felt like her best friend's advice wasn't out of concern for her but rather an attempt to push her away from Rei-ao. Yui Uegahama, Yumiko, are you planning to leave him? Yumiko Miura, of course not. I'll make sure to rein him in. Yes, I'll stop him from bullying other girls. She said this with righteous conviction. Sanoko Machida. Yumiko sounds like she just wants to keep him all to herself. Kobashi, this chat group is so chaotic. Little saint, hee hee, mommy should hurry and join the family too. Then I can call Rei-ao my daddy without hesitation. Hirumi Kato, I don't even know where to begin critiquing this. Hirumi felt utterly drained. Her younger sister's boyfriend was far too bold, and it was almost too much to bear. This kind of double act? I haven't even seen it in movies. A coworker in Hirumi's office noticed her flushed face and asked with concern, Hirumi, are you feeling unwell? Your face is so red. Hirumi forced a strained smile and waved it off. No, it's just a bit warm in here. Ha. Kasumadoka Utaha. The relationships between the people in the chat group seems so complicated. Meanwhile, in the art club, Yuri involuntarily squeezed her legs together, her breathing quickening. What had she seen? It was a scene strikingly similar to the poses in her Jin illustrations. For a moment, she didn't even feel embarrassed. Instead, her mind raced with realization. So that's how it is. She finally understood why some poses were hard to draw. The flow of the muscle lines. This was how they moved. Huh? In the arena, Stella suddenly hesitated mid-action. Iki Kurogane, who had been under relentless pressure, keenly seized the opening and unleashed a secret sword technique. Stella's pupils shrank as she hastily raised her sword to block, but the sheer force sent her flying. Though she managed to stabilize herself, her gaze, flushed red with embarrassment and fury, locked onto the darkened glass of the special observation deck. How dare you? How dare you do such a thing during my match? Watching the live stream, Stella was incensed. Her anger and shame boiled over. Naturally, her opponent, Ikki Kurogane, bore the brunt of this fury. You bastard! She screamed. Not at Ikki, but at Rayao. Simultaneously, a massive burst of flame erupted into the air, forming a scorching dragon that roared across the arena without hesitation, charging straight at Ikki. She's taking it this far? Ikki was dumbfounded. This was an indiscriminate attack that engulfed the entire arena. The magical barrier protecting the audience automatically activated to shield them. Roar! The flame dragon bellowed. In the next instant. Boom! The arena shook violently as blinding flames consumed the battlefield. The interior of the barrier was filled with searing heat and light. When the flames finally subsided, the audience was greeted by the sight of a scorched battlefield. Stella stood proudly amidst the devastation. Ikki Kurogane, though alive, was in a pitiful state. His body heaved with labored breaths as he leaned on his sword, its blade scraping the ground to support him. Surrender, Stella said, her eyes narrowing. Ikki struggled to rise. He didn't want to admit defeat. But Stella, impatient, added, you might still have some tricks up your sleeve, but so do I. And let me remind you, this isn't the 7 Stars Sword Art Festival. There's no need to expose everything here. Ikki froze. She was right. This was merely an inter-school match, not the 7 Stars Sword Art Festival to determine the 7 Stars Sword King. All he needed to do was secure his qualification for the festival. After a moment of thought, Ikki let out a bitter laugh. I concede. Congratulations to Stella Vermillion for winning this duel, ooh. The arena erupted into cheers. The Crimson Princess. The crowd shouted Stella's title in celebration. Even so, Ikki's performance had left an impression. Many spectators began to see him in a new light. After all, for an F-rank blazer to hold his ground against a knee rank for so long. It was no small feat. Chapter 164, Self-Serving Indulgence, Shizuka Marikawa the Crimson Princess. The entire arena was cheering for Stella. Humphrey. But there wasn't a trace of joy on her face. With a cold huff, she turned and left the arena without hesitation. Ikki Kurogane also left, his head hanging in defeat. The low swayed on him. If he couldn't defeat Stella, how could he hope to compete in the 7 Stars Sword Art Festival and achieve his goal of becoming the 7 Stars Sword King? His current strength wasn't enough. To reach his goal, he needed to become much stronger. Brother, sigh. From the preparation area, Shizuka Kurogane sighed as she watched Ikki's defeat. Though she regretted his loss, her thoughts were mostly elsewhere. On Rayao. She clenched her fists and looked toward the observation deck. Rayao-kun, watch me. Watch my strength. Like Stella, she wanted to show her best self in front of the person she admired the most. As for Stella herself, her shame and anger had overtaken her reason. She had been trying to show her abilities to him, yet Rayao had dared to do that during her match. Fuming, she stormed toward the special observation deck. But she couldn't get in. The door refused to budge no matter how hard she tried. Thankfully, her rationality stopped her from blasting it open with flames. Instead, she shouted. I know you're in there. Open the door. Creak. The door opened. Before Stella could react, an unseen force shoved her inside, and the door closed behind her in an instant. What do you want, shouting like that? Rayao, holding Shizu by the legs, turned to face Stella with a calm expression. Shizu covered her face, too embarrassed to meet Stella's eyes. Stella froze as she took in the scene. The moment she realized what was happening, her mind cleared, and she quickly turned away, her face burning red. You! What the hell are you doing? Turning her back didn't help. Shizu's soft, stifled sounds still reached her ears, making her situation even more unbearable. What am I doing? Just multitasking. Fighting while watching your match, Rayao replied nonchalantly. To him, and to both Shizu and Kurano, everything felt perfectly enjoyable. Especially Kurano, who, though not directly involved, occasionally assisted in her own way. Stella didn't dare turn back, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. Why had she stormed in here so impulsively? Now it was beyond awkward. You didn't come here just to scold me, did you? Rayao said, still entirely unbothered. I've got rewards to claim from my trades. If there's nothing else, don't interrupt me. He casually redirected his focus back to Shizu. Shizu, don't you think we've got a big, bright light bulb in here? Ah. Why yes, Maybe. Shizu stammered, her voice trembling. Huh? Stella's mind blanked. A light bulb? How had she suddenly become the third wheel? Weren't they the ones acting shamelessly? Attention. The next contestants, Shizuka Kurogane vs Tuka Tattoo, please enter the arena. The announcement of the next duel echoed through the arena. Rei-ao paused. Tuka Tattoo. This was a match worth watching. Without missing a beat, he repositioned Shizu against the glass to continue his multitasking. Then, without turning around, he addressed Stella. You're not here just to be a light bulb, right? I've got a match to watch. Do as you like. You. Stella was livid. She couldn't stop anything that was happening, and Shizu's soft noises only made her feel like ants were crawling all over her skin. Even her legs felt weak. Ugh. Fine, I don't care about you anymore. She huffed in frustration before storming out of the room. But no matter what, you better watch my next match. I'll definitely win. Humphrey. After shouting her final words, Stella fled, embarrassed beyond belief. Stella wasn't the only one eager to show off her abilities. Now stepping onto the arena was Shizuka Kurogane. She sent a message to the chat group, Shizuka Kurogane, Rei-ao-kun, please watch my performance. Rei-ao, good luck. When Rei-ao saw that Shizuka Kurogane's opponent was Tautatuka, he knew that Shizuka had little chance of winning, but he still offered her encouragement. Tautatuka was a second-year student at Hagun Academy and held the title of the strongest student council president. She had chestnut-colored hair styled into twin braids and wore glasses. Demon, Tautatuka, level 21, abilities, Rikiri. Takumi Kazuchi. Inherent device, Narukami. Though her strength as a pseudo-blazer was only at B rank by this world's standards, Tautatuka's combat ability far surpassed that of Stella, whose strength relied heavily on her flames. This earned her the title of strongest student council president. Demon, Shizuka Kurogane, level 17, abilities, Shaowasu Iron. Oiiro Rin. Inherent device, Oishiguro. Shizuka was also a B-rank pseudo-blazer and was nicknamed the Witch of the Deep Sea. However, her overall power was significantly weaker than both Tautatuka and Stella. The battle unfolded exactly as Rei-ao expected. Shizuka was completely overwhelmed by Tautu from beginning to end. Despite giving it her all and providing a visually impressive performance for the audience, she ultimately couldn't overcome her opponent. You've lost. Tautatuka's katana rested against Shizuku's neck, signaling her defeat. Congratulations to Tautatuka for winning this match. Hearing the announcement, Tauta sheathed her blade and walked away without a word. Shizuka stood motionless, her head lowered, her body trembling slightly. She had declared her determination to show her best to Rei-ao, yet she had been utterly defeated. I must look so pathetic right now. Biting her lip, she couldn't summon the courage to look toward the special observation deck. Instead, she fled the arena in despair. Watching from the deck, Kurano Shingoji observed keenly. Rei-ao, Shizuku's feelings for you aren't ordinary. Rei-ao nodded. Of course I know. With his experience in dealing with the affections of many beautiful girls, there was no way Rei-ao couldn't see it. Shizu, her face still flushed and her body trembling slightly, took a deep breath before speaking softly. What do you plan to do about her, Rei-ao-kun? Let her calm down for now, Rei-ao replied without a hint of urgency. Besides, there's still a match to finish watching on my transaction with Kurano that hasn't been completed yet. He smirked at Kurano. So, Kurano, what do you think counts as banging you? Kurano's eyes sparkled, her expression bold as she replied without hesitation, until the deepest abyss, with countless thrusts and more. I want it all. Rei-ao chuckled. Then let's begin. Chat room, Taru, something about that woman seems off. Suai, you could remove seems. She's absolutely off. Akam, Leon calls this self-serving indulgence. My Sakurajima, somehow, that feels spot on. Sakobujujima, I don't know. I think all of us act the same when we're with Rei-ao. For example, Sai and Yuriko seem even hungrier. What? Shizuka Marikawa's exclamation startled everyone. Her wide, innocent eyes darted to the deeply blushing Saya, who was burying her face in Yuriko's arms. Truly puzzled, Shizuka asked with a finger to her lips, Sako, is it really that good? Rei Miyamoto. She couldn't bring herself to answer. Yuriko Takagi felt equally embarrassed, unsure how to respond, especially with Alice shyly peeking out from behind Shizuka, clearly eavesdropping. Sako, ever bold, replied with a serene smile, I can't speak for others, but from my experience, being with someone you love is irresistible. Someone you love? Shizuka tilted her head in thought before blurting out, then can I try too? Huh? Saya sat upright, staring at Shizuka in disbelief. You like Rei-ao? Shizuka pondered for a moment before answering. I think so. After all, Rei-ao-kun has saved me multiple times, and he's so strong and handsome. But he's a perverted, selfish womanizer. Saya protested, desperate to dissuade her. Shizuka, though innocent, was also perceptive. Her gaze swept over everyone's faces before countering, but none of you seemed to mind. She then turned the question back to Saya. Do you dislike him? Saya froze, unable to respond. Yuriko chuckled and teased. The last time we visited Dakom's world, Saya complained that Rao didn't spend enough time with her. Mom. Saya's face turned scarlet as she protested in embarrassment. Rei, smiling gently, told Shizuka. No matter what, Shizuka-sensei, the choice is yours. We won't say anything to sway you. Sako agreed. We're all the same, after all. Chapter 165, Stella Vermilion vs. Tuketau. 3 hours later. Kurano had received everything she wanted from the trade. Now both Shizuo and Kurano were resting on the sofa, exhausted. The trade was complete. At the same time, the climactic moment of the school tournament had arrived. Stella Vermilion vs. Tuketau. The tension between the two competitors was palpable. Each regarded the other as their strongest rival. And for good reason. From the very beginning, the match was a spectacle of ferocity and precision, with every move sharp and decisive. This was a true battle of elites. Both fighters remained serious as they exchanged blows. Tuketau quickly recognized how troublesome Stella's flames were, while Stella became painfully aware of her own weaknesses compared to Tuka's capabilities outside of fire manipulation. Unlike Iki Kurogain, who relied purely on swordsmanship, Tuketau's Narukami technique used electromagnetic force to launch her blade explosively from its sheath, creating an ultra-electromagnetic AI strike. Her abilities seamlessly combined swordsmanship and electromagnetism, making her techniques devastatingly powerful. Stella's relatively weaker sword skills were easily seen through. After cutting through one of Stella's fiery explosions, Tuka managed to close the distance between them. Damn it. For the first time, Stella regretted relying so heavily on her mastery of flames. There's no other way. Having boasted to Rao earlier, Stella was determined not to lose. She decided to unleash her trump card, True Crimson Dragon God Possession. Roar. A dragon's roar echoed through the arena. The protective barrier around the duel shattered under the sheer force of the roar. Boom. An intense crimson aura ignited around Stella, its mere presence causing anyone who looked at it to feel as if their very soul was burning. What is this? Tuketau's eyes widened in shock as she instinctively leapt back. Oh? Rao, observing from the special viewing area, felt the familiar energy and smirked knowingly. Looks like I'll have to give Stella a little surprise. Closing his eyes, a sly grin spread across his face. This power. It's so strong. He's so strong. As the seemingly infinite energy of Rao's true Crimson Dragon God flowed through her, Stella began to understand the magnitude of her transformation. And just how powerful Rao truly was. Parts of her body were now covered in crimson dragon scales. Horns sprouted from her head, and a pair of blazing red dragon wings unfurled from her back, lifting her into the air. Her eyes glowed with a dual red hue, radiating an otherworldly light. Ah, are you expressing your admiration for me? Stella suddenly spoke, her voice laced with a strange arrogance. Huh? Stella froze. She hadn't intended to say anything. Even stranger, her left hand moved on its own, waving at the air in front of her. As if greeting someone. At that moment, Stella realized something horrifying. Her left side, including her crimson eye, wasn't under her control. Someone else was using her body to speak. Who's there? She shouted in panic. Across the arena, Tuketau, who had been bracing herself for Stella's next move, noticed something odd. Stella seemed to be talking to herself? Who else? You're using my power right now, so letting me borrow your body isn't too much to ask, is it? What? The realization struck Stella. It was Rao. Flustered, she stammered. Why you? Get out right now. Why the fuss? It's just possession. No need to make such a big deal out of it. Rao's tone was calm, almost amused. You wanted to fight, didn't you? Go ahead and continue. With that, he relinquished control, leaving Stella to regain full command of her body. Though she could move again, Stella's face turned bright red. Having someone else's presence lingering within her made her feel profoundly awkward. She couldn't shake the unsettling sensation of sharing her body with another person. Are you okay? Tuketau hesitated before asking. She didn't take advantage of Stella's strange behavior to press her attack. Huff. Understanding that she needed to focus on the duel, Stella forced herself to suppress the overwhelming shame she felt, as if Rao had stolen control of her entire body. Gripping the levitine, her expression hardened. I'm fine. Let's end this battle here. I will defeat you. The crimson flame spiraled and coiled around her sword. Apologies, but I won't go down easily either, Tuketau replied. Even as the sight of the flames caused a searing pain in her soul, she refused to admit defeat. Knowing she needed greater strength to match Stella, Tuka made her resolve clear. She removed her glasses, her gaze steely. I'll now use my unfinished blade art. Be ready. Crackle. Electricity buzzed and hissed as Tuka lowered her stance. Golden electromagnetic energy surged around her, flashing like lightning before condensing into her blade. The energy built up, and the tension in the arena became palpable. Everyone held their breath, knowing the decisive moment was upon them. When both fighters reached the peak of their intensity, they struck in a flash. Takumi Kazuchi. Tuka's eyes gleamed as she charged forward, her entire body enveloped in golden lightning, streaking across the battlefield like a thunderbolt. Catharterio Salamandra. Roar. Stella's sword unleashed a crimson inferno, the flames erupting like a dragon's breath. From the audience's perspective, all they saw was a red and gold collision as the two forces clashed. Boom. The ground quaked violently. The fiery explosion spread outward, its devastating force capable of consuming the entire Hagon Academy. Stella's eyes glowed fully crimson. Rayao temporarily took control of her body, shaking his head with a sigh. It's just a small match. Was this level of destruction necessary? He raised his hand, and the flames racing toward the audience suddenly froze in place. The spectators in the front rows were so terrified they almost fainted, thinking their lives were over. Rayao stepped forward, approaching the center of the flames. In the midst of the devastation, Tuka Tautale collapsed on the ground. Her clothing was scorched, her body bearing severe burns, but her gaze remained steady as she weakly stared at Stella. The unfamiliar aura in Stella's eyes caught Tuka's attention. Who are you? Rayao smiled faintly. You'll find out soon enough. He lightly tapped his finger, and Tuka's injuries rapidly healed. A glowing feathered cloak formed over her body, covering her modestly. Rayao then withdrew all the flames from the arena, revealing both fighters unharmed to the astonished audience. Kurano Shingoji, now fully dressed, appeared. As the Academy's director, it was her duty to officiate at this moment. Even if her stockings were in tatters underneath her skirt. She raised her voice and announced, the winner of this duel is Stella Vermilion, officially the strongest at Hagon Academy. Ooh. The arena erupted into the loudest cheers yet. Stella, who had just regained control of her body, stood there dazed. Rayao's voice echoed in her mind. You need to learn to control your power. That outburst just now could have destroyed all of Hagon Academy. Stella's expression shifted to one of alarm and regret. Rayao's power was so overwhelming that she couldn't fully control it. Without his intervention, she might have caused a catastrophe. Congratulations, you've won. Tuka Tattoo, now cloaked in the feathered garment, stood up and looked at Stella. But her gaze was sharp as she asked. Who was that person just now? Stella hesitated for a moment before replying, his name is Rayao. Ding. You have unlocked a subgroup of the trading chat group. Welcome to this world's group chat. Tuka Tattoo's eyes narrowed as she scanned the newly appeared chat interface. There, she found a user named Rayao. She cast Stella a deep, meaningful look before turning and walking away. Chapter 166, Shizuka Kurogane's Confession, Giving Everything it's finally over. Hajime Kasuga let out a long sigh of relief. It wasn't just because the match had ended. It was also because Rayao's livestream had ended. Her flushed face was hidden behind her hands as she tried to process everything she'd just witnessed. Out of some inexplicable curiosity, she had shamelessly watched the entire stream. The bizarre and intimate visuals kept replaying in her mind, completely shattering her worldview. For someone who had never even held hands with a boy, this was too much to handle. Especially since she had shared the room with Shino Aragi, making the atmosphere all the more awkward. But the awkwardness wasn't going to end just yet. Rayao, Hajime Kasuga, Shino Aragi, there's still some time before you return. Feel free to explore Hagon Academy. The message appeared in the group chat, and the two exchanged glances before replying. Hajime Kasuga, I understand. Shino Aragi, no problem. Meanwhile, Rayao and Shizu had finished dressing. Softly, Shizu asked. Rayao-kun, are you planning to find Shizuka Kurogane-san? That's right. Since she has feelings for me, it's only proper that I respond. Just like I did with you. Leaning down, he kissed Shizu's soft lips before leaving the special viewing deck. As for Shizuku's whereabouts, Rayao didn't need to guess. The girls' dormitory. Shizuka was wrapped up in her blanket, dejected and wallowing in her thoughts. I'm so useless. She murmured to herself. If only I could be stronger. A voice interrupted her musings. Why do you want to become stronger? Without thinking, Shizuka answered instinctively, to show Rayao-kun the best version of myself. Realizing what she'd just said, she froze. That voice. It was Rayao. Before she could react, her blanket was pulled away, revealing Rayao's calm, knowing gaze. Panicking, she tried to hide, but Rao firmly scooped her up into his arms and placed her on his lap, forcing her to face him directly. Shizuku, can you tell me why you want me to see the best version of you? Shizuku's body trembled, unable to lie or hide under Rao's intense gaze. Because I like you, Rao-kun. I want to stand by your side, just like the others. Her shoulders shook as tears welled up in her beautiful eyes. But I'm so useless. I lost my first match miserably, and I even dragged you down. She felt utterly humiliated, convinced she had no right to face him. Rao smiled gently, wiping away the tears from the corners of her eyes. Liking me is enough. You don't need to be strong for that. In that match, what I saw was the most captivating version of you, giving it your all. Victory doesn't matter. What's important is your unyielding spirit, your determination to keep fighting. I admire that. I admire. Shizuku's face flushed as a flicker of hope lit up in her watery eyes. Why you mean? You like me? You heard me right, Rao confirmed with a smile. Shizuku, will you be my girlfriend? That is, if you don't mind me having other girlfriends. Then, with a mischievous grin, he added, even if you do mind, I'll still find a way to make you mine. As he spoke, his hands naturally encircled Shizuku's slender waist, pulling her closer. Their faces were so close that only a breath separated them. Rao could feel her body heat rising rapidly. But I lost. I'm so useless. Shizuku murmured, her voice trembling with self-doubt. Then let's prove otherwise, Rao said before leaning in to kiss her soft, pink lips. Shizuku's eyes widened in shock, but as she processed what was happening, she instinctively wrapped her pale arms around his neck, pulling him closer. Rao was briefly surprised. She was far more forward than he'd anticipated. Moments later, Shizuku slumped against his shoulder, her eyes brimming with contentment and happiness. She whispered softly into his ear, Rao-kun, I want to give you everything. All of me. Rao's eyes sparkled. Here and now? Shizuku, blushing furiously, nodded faintly. Even her soft reply was barely audible. Then let me take care of everything. Rao gently laid her down on the bed and pulled the curtains closed. Stella, thank you for giving us a tour of Hagon Academy, said Hijiri Kasuga with a sincere expression. Yes, thank you, added Shino Aragi, equally genuine in her gratitude. For the past 2 hours, Stella had guided them around the academy, introducing them to its unique features. The two visitors from another world were particularly fascinated by the cultural differences. It's nothing. It's the least I could do, Stella replied, scratching her head. However, she couldn't help but grumble. What is Rao up to? Don't tell me he is with the director again. Shizu, standing nearby, stayed silent, knowing exactly what Stella was implying. The tension broke when Rao appeared in the distance, walking toward them with a smile. Looks like I made it back just in time, he said warmly. Stella shot him a fierce glare. If you hadn't shown up, I wouldn't have had any other places left to show them. She had even taken them to her least favorite spot. The library. Rao chuckled. Thanks for taking care of our new members. His sudden gratitude caught Stella off guard, making her feel both pleased and a bit embarrassed. She turned her head slightly, trying to hide her reaction. With a hint of her usual tsundere tone, she muttered. I'm not like some group leader who ignores new members to go off and enjoy himself. Rao didn't argue. After all, his absence was partly because Shizuku had been insistent. After her baptism, she had mentioned learning many techniques from his livestream that she wanted to try. Naturally, Rao obliged, ensuring she was satisfied before returning. Anyway, that's enough for today. Let's head back, he suggested. Shino Aragi nodded calmly. Understood. Hijiri Kasuga, however, blushed and avoided looking directly at him. Oh okay. Stella looked slightly disheartened at the mention of their departure. But before they left, Rao turned to her and said, Stella, congratulations on your victory. Your performance today was truly impressive. Ugh. Hearing the words she had most wanted to hear, Stella felt as though her heart had been filled with honey. But, maintaining her pride, she tilted her head up and replied arrogantly. Who do you think I am? I'm Stella, the princess of the Vermilion Kingdom. Rao, unimpressed by her boastfulness, poured a bit of cold water on her enthusiasm. Don't get too full of yourself. You still have weaknesses to address. If you don't work hard, Shizuku might surpass you. What? The idea of being surpassed by Shizuku was unthinkable to Stella. Their gap in strength was significant, after all. Rao, however, only gave a cryptic smile. As Shizuku was now one of his girlfriends, Rao had granted her his blessing. Name, Shizuku Kurogain. Abilities, Dragon's Power. Ice Spirit. Rao's Blessing. Inherent Device, Nocturnal Rain. Even Kurano Shinoji, who had shared many delightful moments with him, wasn't excluded. Name, Kirano Shinji. Abilities, Dragon's Power. Demon. Time and Quality Manipulation. Inherent Device, Primordial Father. Inherent Device, Goddess of Thought. This was why Rao urged Stella to work on her shortcomings. Without explaining further, he led the group back. After their departure, Stella frowned as she pondered Shizuku. There's no way I'll be surpassed by her. She's just a defeated opponent. But her thoughts turned more compassionate. She's probably back in the dorm, crying under her blanket over her loss. She decided she might check in on her. After all, they were comrades in battle, having fought hard together. Back on campus, Rao returned to the rooftop where he had first left. It was now dusk, and the campus was nearly empty as students had gone home. Scanning the area, he spotted a familiar figure hurriedly entering the school grounds. Wichiru Hayato? Wichiru Hayato seemed anxious as she rushed up the stairs, eventually arriving at the rooftop, panting heavily. Huff. Huff. After catching her breath, she noticed Rao standing there. Rao-kun? What are you doing here? She remembered he hadn't been in class all afternoon and had heard he'd taken a leave of absence. Just looking for something, Rao replied casually. What about you, Wichiru-san? You seem to be in quite a hurry. Wichiru scratched the back of her head awkwardly. I'm here looking for something too, she admitted. Glancing around, she continued. When I got home, I noticed a piece was missing from my guitar. I couldn't find it, so I thought I'd come back to the school and check here. It wasn't uncommon for her to come to the rooftop during lunch to practice her guitar. Chapter 167, Mai was worried that Rao would be squeezed dry not here. Wichiru Hayato looked around the spot where she had spent her lunch break but couldn't find the missing item she was searching for. Rao's gaze fell on a small gap nearby. Bending down, he reached in with his fingers. When he straightened up, he held a small brown object between his fingertips. Is this what you're looking for? He asked. Hearing his voice, Wichiru turned toward him. Her eyes lit up with delight when she saw the object. Yes, that's it. Here, Rao said, handing it to her. Wichiru carefully examined it to confirm it was undamaged, then let out a deep sigh of relief and offered her thanks. Thank you so much, Rao-kun. I was about ready to give up. As long as you found it. You seemed really worried, he replied. Wichiru sighed again, this time with exasperation. I can't help it. My band has a performance tomorrow, and without this part, I'd have to waste time getting a replacement, which would cut into my practice time. Oh? Where's your performance? Is it on a big stage? Rao asked, curious. Wichiru hesitated, looking a little embarrassed. Even though our band has a tiny bit of a name, we're not big enough for that yet. It's just a small street performance. She blinked her sparkling eyes at him and asked. Are you interested in band performances, Rao-kun? Me? Kind of. Then would you like to come and watch our performance? She asked eagerly. Sure, just tell me the time and place, and I'll come by if I'm free. Okay. After bidding Wichiru farewell, Rao returned home to find Mai lounging on the couch, bored and watching TV. Without a word, he made to scoop her up into his arms, but Mai stopped him with a firm hand. What's going on? Is my Mai no longer willing to let me get close to her? Rao teased. Mai rolled her beautiful eyes at him. How many? Huh? I'm asking, how many this time? Shizu, Stella, Shizuku, Hajiri Kasuga, Shino Aragi. How many did you conquer on this trip? Her sharp gaze cut straight through him, leaving him no room to dodge the question. Rao held up 2 fingers. You're overthinking it. Only Shizu and Shizuku confessed to me. And? Did you sleep with them? Yeah. Mai exhaled heavily, her exasperation evident. So you just agree whenever someone confesses to you? Do you even know how many there are now? What can I say? I'm a kind-hearted guy, Rao said with a shrug. Kind? Mai's voice was full of disbelief. That's right. Kind. I can't stand to see girls crying over unrequited feelings. I just want to give them a home, just like I did for you, Mai. With that, he pushed past her hand and wrapped his arms around her. You. Mai wanted to protest, but she couldn't escape his embrace. And me. This is my home too. Toru suddenly burst out of the room and leapt onto the other side of Rao. What caught Rao's attention was Toru's attire. Or rather, the lack of it. She wore nothing but an apron. Toru, who taught you this outfit? He asked, standing a little straighter out of respect. Mai did, Toru replied without hesitation, glaring at his chest. Mai, is this your thing? Rao asked, his expression turning strange. Mai's face turned red. She had only been brainstorming ways to attract Rao while chatting with Toru. The idea of an apron-only outfit had come up as a joke, but Toru had taken it seriously, using magic to bring it to life. And even exposing her involvement. Shooting Toru a deadly glare, Mai pretended to act composed. Don't change the subject. In truth, she was the one trying to change the topic. Rao didn't press her and instead played along. As you can see, you're all my wings. I'm building a big family for us. I'm worried about you. Mai snapped, her exasperation obvious. Worried about me? Rao nibbled lightly on her soft ear, clearly intrigued. What about me? Worried I'll be drained dry and can't satisfy you anymore? He was joking, but to his surprise, Mai fell silent. And then nodded. Why yeah, I'm a little worried about that, she admitted, looking away in embarrassment. It was an awkward and shameful topic, but she felt she had to ask. Her mother had sent her a long overdue message earlier that day, discussing issues like infidelity, physical compatibility, and the balance between love and desire. The conversation had left Mai with a lot to think about, and now those thoughts spilled out in her concerns. PFTT Rao couldn't help but burst into laughter at Mai's concern. What are you laughing at? Her tone was a mix of embarrassment and anger, her frustration only deepening as Rao wiped away imaginary tears of laughter. He then grabbed her right hand and placed it provocatively over his lap, making her cheeks flush with rage and shyness. I'm being serious, but all you think about is... She glared at him with a seductive, yet annoyed expression, but Rao leaned closer, ignoring her protests. Whispering softly into her ear, he said. Can't you feel it? I'm far more vigorous than you imagine. Toru, sitting nearby, grew bolder and let her hand wander, giving her own assessment. Mai, you can trust Rao. I'm sure he's stronger than even a full-grown dragon in this regard. Dragons were known for their unparalleled endurance in such matters, and Toru's statement only made Mai more flustered. Ugh. Hearing this certification from a literal dragon, Mai felt her concerns were utterly ridiculous and embarrassing. It's all my mom's fault for putting such ideas in my head. As Mai cursed her mother internally, Toru's expression turned playful, her eyes taking on a pinkish hue of mischief. Rao patted her head. If you want to, go ahead. Let's prove to Mai that her worries are unfounded. Yes, yes. Toru said enthusiastically. Without a shred of embarrassment, the two started right there, ignoring Mai's presence entirely. Mai, feeling her entire body crawl with unease, could only sit in stunned silence, her face burning. Meanwhile, Shizu Aizawa returned to the large house where she was temporarily staying with Velzard and Velgrund. The moment she entered, Velzard's eyes lit up, and she immediately approached Shizu, sniffing her lightly. TSK, such a strong scent of Rao. How intense, Velzard teased. Velgrund, arms crossed, snorted coldly. You watched the live stream, didn't you? Poor Shizu was really bullied. And now you say this? Ugh. Shizu whimpered, utterly embarrassed, wanting to dig a hole and bury herself. So they had seen the live stream after all. Velzard chuckled. I was just curious. What does it feel like? Turning to Shizu, she asked. Can you share your experience with us? Despite her overwhelming embarrassment, Shizu couldn't refuse Velzard's request. Blushing furiously, she described her feelings in vivid detail to the curious Velzard and a secretly eavesdropping Velgrund. She spoke of the swelling, tingling sensations and the overwhelming sweetness of it all. Elsewhere, Stella was still fixated on Rao's earlier statement. Shizuku surpass me? That's impossible. She repeated this belief to herself as she returned to her dorm. The moment she entered, she was hit by a strange, intense smell. Her eyes scanned the mess. Clothes were scattered everywhere, the room was in complete disarray. Her first thought was that her dorm had been burglarized. But when her gaze fell on Shizuku lying soundly asleep, wrapped in a blanket on Stella's bed, her confusion deepened. Shizuku's bare skin was marked with countless imprints, and the bedding beneath her bore a conspicuous red stain. What is this? Stella's voice trembled as she clamped her hand over her mouth. In the chat group, Stella, Rao, did you came to my dorm to see Shizuku? Suai, what happened now? Stella, see for yourself. Image, the group members saw a picture of Stella's dorm in complete chaos. Stella had avoided photographing Shizuku directly, respecting her privacy, though everyone in the chat was female. Aside from Rao. Akam, it's so messy. Yukino Shida, why are there so many torn clothes? Tsukobujujima, is this your dorm, Stella? Stella, yes. But all these clothes are Shizuku's, and now she's lying on my bed with nothing to wear. Ayamamagawa, This. Frieren, I have a bold guess. Rao, it was me. Stella, I knew it. Yukino Shida. At this point, Yukino was numb to these conversations. Everyone in the group either understood what had happened or had been around long enough to piece it together. She was tempted to ask outright, is Rao some kind of human stud horse? Stella had similar thoughts. Are you a stallion? Rao, no, I'm just giving Shizuku a home. Stella, huh? My Sakurajima, he said. Shizuku confessed to him. Frieren, makes sense. Chapter 168, Ayuri and Sayuri's Pillow Talk, Haruno's Dilemma no Aragi. This sounds like the typical excuse of a playboy who juggles multiple relationships, saying things like "you're all my wings." After reading the latest developments in the chat group, she couldn't help but voice her thoughts. Hajire Kasuga, I feel the same. Rao, completely wrong. We're open and honest about everything. For example, my Sakurajima, Ayami Yamagawa, Suai, what do you think? Sakobujujima, I think it's nice. It feels like gaining a close new sister. Ayami Yamagawa, agreed. Suai, I do feel a little jealous, but it's not a big deal. Megami Kato, sigh, Rao-kun handles relationships in his own unique way. I hope no one minds. Shino Aragi. I don't really care. After all, it wasn't her business. Stella, but this is my dorm room. How am I supposed to sleep with this heavy scent everywhere? She knew she had no right to criticize consensual relationships, but her irritation needed an outlet. The jealousy and dissatisfaction brewing within her demanded release. Rao, that's something I didn't account for, but hey, I didn't do anything unreasonable. You can't blame me. Stella, what did you do? Rao, for example, Shizuku wanted to use your bed, but I stopped her because I thought it was inappropriate. Stella, what? Her mind froze. On my bed? At that moment, a soft noise broke the silence. Shizuku Kurogane stirred awake. Stretching lazily, she let out a yawn and said casually, "Oh, Stella, you're back." Hey. Stella's shoulders began to tremble as a cold, dry laugh escaped her lips. Shizuku. Not only did you get ahead of me, but you even dared to set your sights on my bed. Huh? Shizuku, still groggy and bashful from exhaustion, didn't understand what was happening. But Stella's ominous aura made it clear that she wasn't to be trifled with. Fortunately, something diverted Stella's attention. Their world group chat. Tuketatu, Rao, the one who saved me in the arena. It was you, wasn't it? Stella told me your name. Kurano Shinoji, Tuketatu? Shizuku Kurogane, her? Shizuku's eyes widened. She hadn't forgotten Tuketatu. The one who had defeated her so thoroughly. Shizuku Kurogane, when did she join the group? Stella, momentarily distracted from her anger, added, Rao, this was your doing, wasn't it? Rao, yes, I added her as a subgroup member. Welcome. Rao, by the way, Stella was using my power during your match, so don't feel too discouraged about losing to her. Stella, Humphrey, as much as I hate to admit it, it was his power. Next time, I'll beat you with my own strength. Tuketatu, I see. Tuketatu, thank you, Rao, for showing me a broader world and helping me recognize my own shortcomings. Tuka's expression was one of reverence. The incredible power she had witnessed in the arena remained vivid in her memory. From now on, Rao would be her ultimate goal to strive toward. Shizuku Kurogane, I won't be discouraged either. Next time, I'll beat you myself. Tuketatu, I look forward to it. Rao, Kurano Shinoji, your academy's 3-star students. What's your take? Kurano Shinoji, I'm pleased. They'll go far. Rao, haha, Tuketatu, if you have any questions about the chat group, feel free to ask the others. I have something urgent to attend to. Tuketatu, understood. Rao's urgent matter was, of course, unable to just sit idly by any longer, she finally took action, straddling him decisively. Her face flushed red as she glared down at him, her tone icy yet commanding. This is your punishment for being such a philanderer. This time, it's your turn to grasp the future. Rao was tempted to quip. What future? You don't have one, but decided against it. Instead, he smirked and thought. If it's being served on a silver platter, why not? And so, he began. At the Spencer household. Mom, there's something I want to ask you. It was late at night when Ayuri came into her mother's room, looking conflicted. Sayuri had never seen her daughter so hesitant before, so she responded gently. Of course. Let's have a long overdue mother-daughter chat tonight. Ayuri's face lit up with joy. Okay. I'll grab my pillow. Not long after, the two were sitting together on the bed, leaning against a headboard. The dim light cast a warm glow over the room. Sayuri took the lead. So, Ayuri, tell me. What is it you'd like to ask? Ayuri fidgeted with her hands, her hesitation returning. Whatever was on her mind, it was clearly difficult for her to say. To help, Sayuri tried to guide her gently. Why don't you start by telling me what kind of question it is? Is it about art? Life? Or emotions, perhaps? It's about the emotional problems in my Jinshai? Ariri blurted, her face turning bright red. Oh? From her understanding of her daughter's shy and tsundere nature, Sayuri suspected this wasn't really about her Jinshai. It was probably about Ariri's own emotions. Still, she played along. What kind of emotional storyline are you struggling to draw? Is it one of those neat rare, cheating types? That might be somewhat related, Ariri said, thinking carefully. If Rayao already had a girlfriend, wouldn't her involvement make her the other woman? But Rayao's situation was unique. He was genuinely building a large harem. Sayuri was taken aback by this response. Ariri. A cheating storyline. The only person Sayuri could imagine her daughter liking was Rayao. But if cheating was involved, who was cheating on whom? She was desperate to know the details but didn't dare ask directly. If she pushed too hard, Ariri might get embarrassed and run off, and she'd lose her chance to find out. Adopting a soft tone, Sayuri probed delicately. So, is the male lead cheating on another male lead, or is the female lead cheating on another female lead? It's more like the female lead wanting to cheat on someone else, Ariri replied cautiously. Sayuri understood immediately. This meant Rayao already had a girlfriend. And Ariri was aiming to insert herself into his life. Her thoughts spun in turmoil. Wait. Rayao has a girlfriend? That won't do. Sayuri had been hoping Ariri would bring Rayao home one day so they could live as a happy family of three. Her expression turned serious. If Ariri was determined to win Rayao's affection, Sayuri couldn't let her fail. For her daughter's happiness. And maybe her own future peace of mind. She had to teach Ariri how to succeed. With that resolve, Sayuri began a heartfelt, overnight lesson for her daughter. Saturday. Rayao's weekends were typically peaceful. Provided Mai and the others had nothing planned, and the chat group wasn't buzzing with trades. He'd initially planned to watch Michiru Hayato's band street performance, having been personally invited. However, a text message temporarily redirected his plans. It was from Haruno Yukinoshita. Haruno, hey there, Rayao-kun. Carefully removing Toru and Mai's soft arms from his chest, Rayao got up without waking them and walked downstairs with his phone. Rayao, shouldn't you be resting on a weekend? Sleeping in, perhaps? It's pretty early. Haruno, I'm not the kind of woman who sleeps in, you know Rayao. Well, I am. He'd been up late the previous night playing with Mai and Toru, so he didn't mind sleeping in when given the chance. Haruno, oh dear, it seems my efforts to set up a date for you with Shizuka have gone to waste. Rayao? Haruno, don't you remember? I promised to help you arrange something with your Hiratsuka-sensei. I haven't forgotten. Ah, yes. Rayao recalled her mentioning that. Though he hadn't needed her help. He could easily arrange something himself. Haruno was one of his own targets, so he played along. Rayao, time and place? Haruno, you're so eager when it comes to Shizuka. I'll send you the details, but you'll need to read between the lines. If you miss my hints, don't blame me. Rayao smirked. Big sister type, huh? If Haruno wanted to tease him now, he'd make sure she learned to call him daddy in the future. But before that, he decided to give her a little shock. Rayao, aren't you curious about your sister, Yukino? Have you thought to ask? Haruno, Did you discover something about her? Rayao, for example, a man has been in her home recently. That man, of course, was him. Haruno? Haruno, who? What kind of person? How old? Do you know him? Rayao, TSK, so many questions at once. Haruno, fine. Shizuka's entire schedule tomorrow is yours. Do whatever you want with her. Rayao. Well, Haruno had practically handed Hiratsuka over on a silver platter. Rayao, a handsome young man, that's all I'll say. Anyway, I'm off to take a shower. Closing the chat, Rayao smirked. He could already imagine Haruno pacing anxiously, pulling her hair in frustration. Chapter 169, a date with sensei. He's not replying to my messages. Haruno angrily tossed her phone aside. A young man had been in her sister's apartment? A young man? She didn't completely believe Rayao, but better safe than sorry. This was something she needed to investigate to ease her mind. Determined, she decided to keep a closer eye on Yukino in the coming days. If necessary, she would uncover whether this young man really existed. At the mall entrance, Hiratsuka Shizuka stood next to Haruno, looking puzzled. Haruno, what's brought you out today? Why'd you ask me to meet up? Haruno, who had been lost in thought about Yukino, quickly replaced her contemplative expression with a radiant smile. Hooking her arm around Shizuka's, she teased. Of course, it's to enjoy some young man together with you, Shizuka. Young man. The word struck Shizuka like a hammer. Her expression faltered as she mentally crumbled. Young man? At her age? Haruno was seriously overestimating her. Or rather, that comment had hit a sore spot. Forget now, she hadn't even experienced much young man during her actual young man. She had never even held hands with a man before.